the next case.
All parties in the matter of Pollard versus Jones. Step forward, please.
24-year-old student Sherry Pollard is suing her mother, nurse Pat Jones, for the return of her belongings. Pat is countersuing for phone bills, storage fees, and the return of property.
Miss Pollard, this is your mom.
Yes.
And it is your claim that your mom acknowledges that she kept your personal property when she told you and your son that you had to leave her home.
Yes.
And you want your property back. And your mom says you can have your property back when you pay her the money that you owe her. She seems to allege that you owe her some money for a cell phone bill, for property that you took when you left that didn't belong to you, and something for storage. Had you always lived with your mother?
No, I had not lived with her since I was 16.
And when did you move back?
It was February earlier this year.
And when did she tell you to leave?
I believe it was the 18th of June.
Why did you tell her to leave, Miss Jones?
There had been numerous times that I told her to leave because she became verbally abusive at different times, and told her that this was not working out.
So it wasn't working out because you didn't like her attitude?
Absolutely.
So you told her to leave?
Yes.
Okay. And on June 18th, did she leave?
I had reminded her on June 18th that as of the end of the month she needed to move. And I had told her that at the beginning of June. She was allowed to live with me as long as she was in school full-time.
Just a minute. You told her she had to leave.
Yes.
And what happened on the 18th of June?
She wanted to go to the storage and get her things, which I went with her to the storage and wanted her to sign the storage over to herself. It was in my name.
So?
She could not do that because she didn't have car insurance and they would not lease it to her.
Okay.
So during the day...
The storage unit is storage unit where she put her stuff...
Her belongings.
When she moved into your house?
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead.
But earlier that day when I had told her that she had to move, her demeanor began to escalate and she became verbally abusive again and told me that she was going to take everything she could from me because I had not been the kind of mother I should have been to her.
Okay.
So with that knowledge and going to the storage, I decided that I was going to hold that property until she moved out and I knew that my property was safe.
And
when she left, when she moved that day, it was not safe.
Now, what was missing?
She took photographs off the wall. She took...
What photos?
There was a photo, a 1920 photo of my former mother-in-law who I was very close to, who is now deceased.
What else?
She took a rolling pin. She took lids to the Tupperware. She took a cutting board. I mean, mundane, silly things.
Okay, stupid stuff.
Yeah.
Anything else that was important?
She took money out of my closet.
How much money did you take out of your closet?
I'm estimating $200 to $300 in change.
Did you take any change from her house?
No, ma'am.
No. What else?
That's all.
So she took this property out of your house and?
And I asked for it back.
What else does she owe you for?
Just the storage and her cell phone.
Well, tell me about the cell phone.
When she moved in, she wanted a cell phone, and I told her she could use the landline phone that was in the home. She wanted a cell phone to run her little business that she was trying to create. And so I said, I will get you the cell phone, but you have to pay for it. She agreed to pay for that cell phone, which she never did. She also agreed to pay for her storage, which she never did.
Just a second. You got her the cell phone in February or March?
The beginning of February.
So you got the bill in February?
Got the bill in March.
And did you pay the bill in March?
Absolutely.
Did you pay the bill in April?
Yes.
Did you pay the bill in May?
Yes.
Did you pay the bill the beginning of June?
Yes.
Okay. Did you pay the storage bill?
I did.
Was your daughter working?
She was working part-time.
Yes.
And she was not paying me any money.
Good.
She kept saying, I don't have any money to pay you.
Just a second. Was she also going to school?
She was going to school, and I was paying for her books. I put her on my insurance. I paid her medical, her co-pays.
Fine. How old are you?
24.
Okay. So, big deal. What I'm saying to you is big deal. She came back to you for a reason. Difficult time. She's 24 years old. How old's your child?
He just turned 6.
Okay. So, she's clearly a young lady who's made some mistakes. Right?
Yes.
Okay. But she's doing the right thing. She's going to school. She's working part-time. She's buying her own clothes. At least she's trying to buy her own clothes. She's taking care of her from whatever little money she's making. I mean, it's not as if she's sitting around playing the guitar and eating bonbons all day. What do you want?
What I want is I want what is fair.
I'm going to tell you what's fair. What's fair is 5 days from today, you want to open the storage unit. We'll meet there. You can have a police escort if you wish. She's going to take out her stuff. And as far as the rolling pin, the photos, and anything else, did you take any of that stuff?
No, Your Honor.
Shh.
No.
You have the photo that she's referring to. Don't lie to me.
No, I do not.
Did you take it?
No.
Okay. Did you promise your mother that you would pay for the cell phone?
No.
What about the storage? Did she ask you for money for the storage unit in March?
No.
April?
No, she knew I did not
May.
have any.
Are you still in school?
Yes, I am. I'm full-time right now.
Who's supporting you?
Myself. I have 2 jobs right now.
Okay. 5 days from today, Ms. Pollard, your daughter gets all of her stuff back. I don't think that there's any basis for me to find that there was a loan on your part to your daughter for the cell phone or for the storage unit. I'm sorry if she was in fact fresh to you, and she might have been.
Well, Your Honor.
There's a whole history, so I'm sure that she probably said things that she shouldn't have. Did you say anything to your mother that you shouldn't have?
Yes, I did get very upset.
Okay. Well, you shouldn't have, because it's probably hurtful, and I'm sure she's done things to you that you felt were hurtful, and she reacted to that. But reacting to it does not create a loan. Your counterclaim is dismissed. Her property is to be returned to her within 5 days. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your
That's
Honor.
all.
Yeah, this is case number 274 on the calendar in the matter of Quarter Biddy versus Swan. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Have a seat, please.
How long have you been neighbors?
9.5 years, Your Honor.
And how long have you lived in your house?
I've lived in my house for 10 years.
So you moved in 6 months after she did, is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
I'm getting to the lawsuit, but I want to find out what the genesis of the problem is between you two seemingly normal-looking people. When did the trouble start between the two of you?
About a month after he moved in.
Why?
I found out afterwards that he believed that the property line was about 2 or 3 feet closer to my side than it actually was.
Yes.
He was trying to sort of push things over to move the property line where he thought it should be.
Did you have your property surveyed?
I didn't. I didn't realize this was an issue. I did in April 2001.
Well, that took a long time. When you bought your property, you had a survey?
Yes, Your Honor.
And the survey indicated, at least as far as you were concerned, that your property line was 2 or 3 feet into property that Miss Quarterbiddy had previously thought was hers.
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you have a discussion with her about it?
No, Your Honor.
Why not?
Well, because I had a survey that was on my property, and I knew that she had a survey of the same fence line, so I knew that she knew that the fence was on my property.
Just a second. You knew that there was a fence that she had erected that was on your property.
No, Your Honor. This is a fence that was existing before both of us, both parties bought the property.
Okay. And that fence was on your property?
Yes, Your
As
Honor.
far as your survey was concerned?
2 surveys, yes, Your Honor.
So you wanted to move the fence?
No.
Well, what was the problem? I don't understand what the problem was.
I didn't have a problem with it, Your Honor.
May I speak?
Yeah.
Shortly after he moved in, he started mowing down my plants. He started cutting other plants. He started moving my woodpile over. I didn't know what was going on. He didn't come and say to me, hey, you know, there's an error here. Keep your stuff on your side. No, he just moves it over. So I moved it back. He had backfilled it with dirt, and I was digging out the dirt and moving it back when he came out and he attacked me with a rake in 1997.
Okay. I don't have to get back as far as your incidents with each other in 1997. Suffice it to say that this whole problem started because the two of you did not act like adults. You have a lawyer?
Mm-hmm.
Did you have a lawyer?
Yes.
Well, if you don't wish to speak to her, even though she's your neighbor, you have your lawyer write a letter and say, Dear Miss Quarterbiddy, we believe that this is Mr. Swan's property. Please check your survey. If there is any difficulty, have your lawyer get in touch with us. Yes?
May I interject something? We did go to arbitration, and I offered to be friends, and she refused that in arbitration.
When?
Back in 1995, Your Honor.
When you went to arbitration, what was the result of the arbitration with regard to the property?
No result was issued on that.
Your Honor, if I may, the arbitration at the time was for something entirely different.
I want to know, was there ever a resolution with regard to this property?
No, it has not gone through civil court yet.
So, as far as each of you is concerned, there's a 2 to 3 foot strip of property that is in dispute. Is that right?
No, it is not right, Your Honor. He thought it was 2 or 3 feet. In fact, the fence is on his property by 6 inches.
To some people, 6 inches is very important.
Absolutely. I understand that now. However, I had a survey and I didn't study it. I didn't realize that, yes, the fence appeared to be on his property by a small amount. I didn't look at it until he started mowing things down and beating on my fence, trying to push it over and undermine it and tear it down, basically.
How large a piece of property do you have, Mr. Swan?
It's a little over half an acre.
Well, that's a pretty decent-sized piece of property. Is there anything that is particularly attractive about this strip of property?
Your Honor, I think with the
Is there something particularly attractive about this piece of property?
No, Your Honor.
Then what's the big deal? There are more important things to deal with in life. Why would you move her woodpile over a foot? Why?
I deny that allegation.
Mr. Swan, that's not true. You moved it because it was irritating to you that she was on your property.
If it was on my property and I had right of claim, then I would have moved it.
Did you move it?
If it was on my property.
Did you move it?
Yes.
Then I'm saying to you, you're a fool. Because it's not the way civilized people behave. It's just not. Especially when you're new in the neighborhood. It's ridiculous. However, I have a feeling that you acted badly as well.
I don't know why you would have that feeling, Your Honor.
Really? Because you were convicted of assault, madam, that's why. Your case here says that he falsely accused you of assaulting him and you want to be compensated, and that he has damaged your house and you want to be compensated. But when I read further in his answer, you were convicted of assault.
Can I explain to you why?
No.
Okay.
Once you're convicted, you cannot charge him with having falsely accused you of assaulting him. Do you understand?
No, I don't, Your Honor.
Well,
if he brings fraudulent evidence into the courtroom and the Commonwealth attorney believed him, and the judge found him guilty based upon this fraudulent evidence.
Found you guilty.
Found me guilty based upon his fraudulent evidence.
We don't revisit that, madam. You don't get to try the same case twice. So you have no claim against him for the false arrest. Now, you have a charge against him. You say that he's damaged your home.
Can I show you a videotape of this happening?
Yes. Damage to your home has not been litigated yet, as far as I know. Is that right? Is that right? Has the damage to your home been litigated?
I pressed a charge, but I withdrew it. We traded charges, basically. Which has been going on all the time.
Hold on a second. You filed charges with regard to the damage on your home that's in that video?
I did.
Did you subsequently drop those charges?
I did. I traded them for the appeal. I had a charge against him, he had a charge against me,
and you both agreed to withdraw those charges. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Then that's finished.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
He has almost totally destroyed the existing fence.
He can destroy whatever he wants to on his property.
No, he can't.
Oh, yes, he can.
No, he can't.
If you say potato and I say potato, madam, he can, in fact, take down a fence that's on his property.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Janet Quarterbitty says she's at war with neighbor Mark Swan over a property line. She is suing him for damages to her home and for filing false charges with the police.
Do either of you two people have any fresh complaints about the other that have not been the subject of either a settlement or a lawsuit?
I do.
When?
Over the last year, he has almost totally destroyed the existing fence.
Is this the fence that's on his property?
Yes, it is.
The fence is on his property?
It's his, but it's my fence.
He can destroy whatever he wants to on his property.
No, he can't.
Oh, yes, he can.
No, he can't.
If you say potato and I say potato, madam, he can, in fact, take down a fence that you erected if it's on his property.
But I didn't erect it. It was there. It was pre-existing.
Then you certainly have no complaint. If he took down a fence that you acknowledge is on his property, that you, in fact, did not put up, he has the right to take it down. He has the right to take it down even if you did put it up, if it's on his property. You can't erect a structure on somebody else's property.
I didn't.
Oh.
It was there before.
Okay. I've taken care of your claim. You have no claim. I'm coming back to you. You have a counterclaim. Your counterclaim is for medical bills and damages due to the assault. Has this been the subject of any other proceeding?
No.
You have never sued her for the medical bills as a result of the assault. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay. Let me see. The assault was in 2002, is that right?
June of 2002, right.
photographs of the assault? What is this that you're showing me? What is this that you're showing me?
These are attorney's fees, Your Honor. Those are prior proceedings, too.
I think that both of them need another kind of professional. Right?
Could be.
Your Honor, may I speak?
I see a mark on your arm, sir, a large bruise on your arm.
Right.
I want you to tell me when this happened and under what circumstances it happened, and then you will show me what I asked you for, which were the medical bills as a result of this assault.
Okay, I have an HMO that pays for the medical bill.
So you had no medical bills?
I have the receipts.
So you had no medical bills, the HMO covered it, so you want damages for your pain and suffering?
That's correct.
Okay. Tell me how this happened.
Okay, this is ongoing things she's throwing every time.
Just listen to me. Do you see this? I want you to tell me how this happened.
I had a boulder thrown at me. It went past my head. I put my arm up. It hit me right in the arm.
What kind of boulder?
It's a boulder the size
A rock.
of 2 fists, a rock.
A rock.
Right.
Where were you when this rock was thrown at you?
I was standing between the 2 houses on my side of the fence.
And what were you doing?
I was cutting my grass, working in a yard.
And what was Miss Quarterbitty doing?
Miss Quarterbitty was watching me, which is her favorite pastime. Every time I get near the fence, or if I'm cutting the grass near the fence, this upsets her, this agitates her.
Okay. So she picked up a rock and threw it at you?
Unprovoked a lot of times.
I'm not interested in a lot of times, sir. I'm interested in this time. This is the time when she was convicted of assault. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. You saw a doctor how many times, sir?
I went twice.
What kind of treatment did you receive?
He gave me coated Tylenol, which is for the pain. There was a deep muscle bruise.
Were the police called after this?
Yes, they were.
Do you have a police report?
The police were not called on that day.
Not with me, Your Honor.
The police were not called on that day.
When were you contacted by the police, Miss Quarterbitty? Was it the day after?
No.
When was it?
It was, I guess, a couple of weeks later that some officer came into my yard and said I was under arrest. And I said, for what?
When did you call the police, sir?
June 30th, 2002.
And when did this incident occur?
June 30th, 2002.
Did you file a complaint?
Yes, I did. I went down to the magistrate's office immediately. I filed a complaint, and I went to Kaiser Permanente immediately.
Did you miss any work?
No, Your Honor.
Was there a hearing before a bench or before a jury?
Bench.
You waived a jury trial?
There was no question of jury trial at that point.
You had an attorney?
I didn't have an attorney. I didn't do anything. I didn't get an attorney because I had nothing to defend myself against. Your Honor, I have his complaint right here, a copy of his complaint.
I'd like to see it.
That he took down to the magistrate that morning. And the magistrate annotated on it. The magistrate annotated on it, red mark on right arm.
Right.
The picture you see is of an arm with quite an extensive injury, and it's not even him, frankly. If you look at the picture, there's no way to identify.
I want to tell you something, madam. If you threw a rock at him and he had a little mark on his right arm, you're way out of line.
I didn't throw a rock at him.
I don't believe you. I don't. If you threw a rock and it hit him, you're way out of line. I believe that you did. You have to stop fighting with each other because life is short. Do you understand? He is absolutely entitled to recover, Miss Quarterbitty, because you were convicted of assault. A judge hearing this case beyond a reasonable doubt found that you were, in fact, guilty of throwing a rock at him and causing him injury. Judgment for the defendant on the counterclaim in the amount of $2,500. You better stop it.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I think Judge Judy did a very good job.
On the basis of his false evidence, they found me guilty.
She's provoking me all the time, every time I'm out, even when I'm cutting the grass.
She's a jerk.
She has no life. This is what she does for a living.
It was never an assault. I mean, I went into court without a lawyer because I had nothing to defend.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Martin versus Acosta, step forward, please.
20-year-old customer service rep Stephanie Martin is suing daycare provider Christina Acosta for a refund of babysitting fees and medical bills. Stephanie claims, due to Christina's negligence, her 9-month-old daughter fell down a staircase. Christina is countersuing for slander.
Miss Martin, you have a baby girl?
Yes, ma'am.
And how old is the baby?
She's 10 months.
Miss Acosta was your daycare provider for a period of time. It is your claim that while the baby was in Miss Acosta's care, she fell down a flight of stairs while in a walker.
Correct.
You want a refund of the money that you paid her because you paid for that week in advance, and you want the child's medical bills covered, and you want something for pain and suffering for the baby.
Correct.
Miss Acosta says, pretty much, when children are in daycare, accidents happen. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And she is counterclaiming. She says that you have been bad-mouthing her around town, which has caused her insurance to go up, and some people have left her business, so she's suing you for slander, defamation.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. The baby did, in fact, fall down the stairs while in your care.
Yes, correct.
So if Miss Martin said to other people that you were not a good daycare provider because you were negligent in allowing the baby to fall down the stairs, that would be true.
True.
So you can't sue her.
That's fine.
Good. How much did you pay each week for the baby to be
It was
cared for?
$20 a day, and I usually kept her in there for 4 days, so it was $80 a week.
And how much are you seeking back in fees that you prepaid?
$40.
That you had already paid for after this incident?
Correct.
Okay. And what are the medical bills?
One is $146 and one is $122.
The child is okay?
Yes, she is.
Lucky.
Yes.
How did she fall down the stairs?
I have a basement. The door was shut and it's always locked. All the children were watching TV. Destiny's in her walker, and she's just walking around. My friend of mine came over to the house, and I walked into the kitchen and retrieved a brochure for her. And I came back in to the living room. I noticed that 2 girls were gone. And I looked around, and then I heard Destiny in her walker near the dining room where the stairs are. And I heard the walker go to that first step. And I immediately ran to her.
But she fell down the stairs?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, if the basement door is locked, how did it get unlocked?
The 2 girls that snuck away unlocked the door and went downstairs.
How old are the 2 girls who snuck away?
3 years old.
And how is the door locked?
It's a doorknob that has a lock on it. I have pictures of them.
Just a regular doorknob with a lock on it?
Yes,
where
ma'am.
you press?
No, turn.
That's not sufficient. If you have a 3-year-old that can reach that, that's not sufficient. You have to have a latch and hook an eye all the way up on top so that the basement door can't be opened. You were negligent. How many children do you take care of, Miss Acosta?
6.
How old are they?
They range from 6 years old, and Destiny was the youngest. At the time, she was 8 months.
So why don't you think you're responsible for these medical bills or a return of her $40?
Ma'am, I never refused to pay for medical bills. Miss Martin refused to give me the medical bills. I have the police officer's narrative stating that she refused to give him the medical bills so he could photocopy them and give them to me.
So you're not a licensed daycare provider?
No, ma'am. You have to have more than 6 children in your care.
Can you be licensed if you have less than 6 children in your care?
You can if you would like, but it's not necessary in the state of Ohio.
But you can?
If you wish.
Okay. She chose to go to court. She chose not to give them to police. She chose to pursue this by way of a civil remedy. I don't see... Listen, this was an accident. She was clearly negligent. Fortunately, your child was not injured. She got a couple of bumps and scrapes. It's not a case that I feel warrants $3,000 that you're suing for, but you certainly should have your expenses back. You certainly should have your money back. So I'm awarding you what that is, which is $308. That's all. Step out.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Yeah, this is case number 354 on the calendar in the matter of Lee versus Nation. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated, folks.
Miss Lee, the defendant is your niece. According to the complaint that I read, it is your claim that she filed false charges against you, alleging that you had assaulted her. Assaulted her on a day that you were visiting your stepfather's ranch and she was there. Miss Nation says that you did in fact assault her and she legitimately contacted the police. That despite the fact that the charges, according to you, were ultimately dismissed.
Correct.
Okay. When was this incident involving your niece?
It actually took place on July 28th.
Where?
At my stepdad's ranch.
Is that where you live?
Yes.
And tell me what happened with your niece.
My kids and I had been invited to attend a rodeo with my stepdad's girlfriend, Deb. So on July 26th, which is a Friday, we were headed to the ranch. On our way there, we have to go through my hometown. When we got into the hometown, Stormy's dad, who is also my brother.
Is that you?
Yes.
My brother-in-law's had a new semi, and he had it parked out in front of the bar.
Semi, let's finish that sentence.
Semi-truck.
Okay.
And my kids were all excited. They wanted to stop and see their Uncle Dwayne, so we stopped at the bar. I went inside the bar, and Stormy and Steve were seated at the end of the bar. I knew when I walked into the bar, I was visiting with other people. I could tell she had given me an evil eye, that she was upset about something at that time. So when I approached Stormy, I said, "Hi, Stormy." She said, "Hi." I said, "What's wrong?" She said, "I'm a little bit pissed at you." I said, "Stormy, I don't come up here. I don't call you guys. I don't want anything to do. I don't try to get involved in your little soap operas, but yet I still seem to get involved."
Did she tell you why she was annoyed with you?
For the simple fact that she did not think that I should be at the ranch. At that time, she was under the impression it was her ranch, her house, and that she had to say who could and could not be there.
Is that what you told her?
No. There was a time where I remember her coming in and talking to me, but I don't remember saying anything that I was ever upset with her.
Okay, fine.
We had the conversation, and I then stated I thought it would be a good idea if she was going to live at the ranch, that she purchase her own mobile home to live out there.
Just a second, why are you giving her advice? I'm just curious. If you know she's annoyed with you, why are you giving her advice?
Because we're having a civil conversation at that time.
So that's on the 26th of July. Can we move over to the 28th of July, please?
Yes, which was a Sunday. We had been to the rodeo the day before. Stormy and Steve came home. The kids and my stepdad were out.
And you were staying at the ranch?
Yes, we were.
Okay, and they were living at the ranch?
We were living, yes.
Good.
Okay, so they arrived Sunday morning. I'm in the kitchen cleaning up from breakfast, doing the dishes, and I said hi when they walked in, and Stormy snottily to me said, under her breath, "Hi." So I then asked her why she
had an attitude.
Had an attitude with me. She then tried to leave and go to her bedroom. I followed her.
Why?
Because we're having a discussion.
Well, she didn't want to have a discussion. Discussion takes two people. She didn't want to have anything to do with you. She was leaving. What happened when you followed her?
Then she tried to shut the door. I pushed the door open. I said, "No, we're going to talk. I want to talk to you now." She sat on the edge of the bed. We had a very short-lived conversation.
Well, what did you say to her and what did she say to you?
It was just...
She tried to go into her room. You pushed your way into her room. She sat at the edge of her bed. You had a short conversation. I want to know what the conversation was.
It was all based on this. She didn't think that I should be at the ranch.
When she had forced herself into my room, I said, "Lori, I don't want to talk to you." I said, "I don't have an attitude problem, and that was it." I said, "I don't want to talk about it." And she said, "Well, we're going to talk about it." And she had a hold of me, pushing me on the bed, holding me in my room.
Okay, go ahead.
She's like, "We're going to talk about this." I said, "No, we're not." And I got out of my room and went outside. That's when I went outside. And a minute, two, behind me, here she came.
And what happened when she came up behind you?
We started talking. She's like, "We just need to talk about this. We need to work out our problems." And I said, "What problems?" "I don't have an attitude problem." I said, "I've never done anything to you. I just don't want to talk to you right now." I said, "You're making me mad and it's making me upset." And so we decided that was enough. We hugged and thought it was all over. Then I went over to help my grandpa in the garden. And then that's when she followed me over there. She's constantly yelling at me, saying that I have a bad mouth, I'm spoiled, I need to have my attitude adjustment.
Now, what did she say when you were in the garden?
She was just constantly screaming at me.
You mean while you were helping your grandfather in the garden? She was screaming at you?
Yes.
What was she saying?
Cussing at me.
What did she say? I can take it.
That I was a spoiled, the B word. And I said, "No, I'm not." I started getting upset and I started cussing back at her. I said, "Why don't you just," and I said the F word, "just drop it. Just leave me alone. I don't want to talk about it." And she said that my mouth was worse than my mother's mouth. And I constantly just kept saying, "Lori, drop it." I said, "I'm not going to talk to you about this." And she said, come over to my face and say it. And I was like, "No, and I was talking to my grandpa, and we're working in there. She's like, well, come on, why don't you say it? Come over here and say it to my face. I'll slap you. And I was approximately this far away from the fence, and I just leaned over and I said, F you to her face. And
put your hand down. I'm listening to her.
And that's when she reached over to try to slap me. I grabbed her arms right here. I may have dug my fingernails into her arms right here, but she was swinging at me, and I had fell over the fence. And I believe I might have caught her shirt. I think that's how her shirt ripped. And I had caught her shirt, but that was it. And then I walked into the house and was proceeding to go to the bathroom because I had blood on my face, which I have
blood
pictures.
From what?
Her scratches.
Oh, she scratched you in the face.
Yes.
Go ahead.
And so I was going to the bathroom to clean up my face. She had followed me in again and grabbed me right in front of the stereo when we walked in the house. And that's when my husband came in and stood in between us and said, that's enough. You guys need to knock it off. After I was done cleaning my face, I went back outside to finish helping my grandfather, and she proceeded to get her things and the kids and leave.
The assault that you're referring to are the scratches on your face. Is that right?
Yes.
That was the assault?
Yes.
When did you call the police?
I went to town right after that, right after she left, and went to the courthouse.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I raised my hand as if to slap her.
As if to slap her. That's
Listen,
the key point.
she's
not slap
she
her.
is not a mind reader.
And later today,
I moved my daughter out here, and Debbie did not like that. She became very hateful, very belligerent. In fact, she put a restraining order against Julie, and she did nothing.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Customer service rep Lori Lee is suing her niece, 20-year-old student Stormy Nation, for having her falsely arrested for assault. Stormy says Lori scratched her face.
Can I see the copy of the complaint that you filed?
Would you like to see the pictures?
Mm-hmm. I would.
Those are the complaints, I believe.
Miss Lee, were you arrested on a charge of assault, or is the false arrest that you're talking about really Miss Nation's application for a protective order?
They had a warrant for my arrest.
Can I see the paperwork she has, please? Or
Thank you.
minutes. Thank you. Other than this hearing that you went to before a judge for the restraining order, did you go to court for anything else involving this incident?
No.
Okay. The only decision that I have to make today is whether Miss Nation, your niece, whether she was within her rights to go to court and say, I want a protective order against my aunt because this is what she did to me, and she was following me around, and I want her to leave me alone. And Miss Lee, based upon what I've heard from both of you, despite the fact that the court after the hearing dismissed the case because the judge said the evidence suggests that you raised your hand first against her, which you seem to say also in your complaint, that you went to slap her in the face and she caught your hand. That's what you said you did. You went to slap her and she got your hand. It's also clear to me that you probably say to yourself, listen, I'm the grown-up, I'm her aunt, I want to clear this up with my niece. She's not going to get away with, disrespecting me, but she's a grown-up. She's not 10 or 11 years old. You can't put her in a timeout. You can't presume to retrain her if you think that she's not acting properly with you, which is really what you wanted to do. We wanted to clear the air. She didn't want to talk to you. She had an absolute right to file this case. Now, I'll hear you say one final thing, Miss Lee.
I did not slap her. She told me to F you. I had apologized to her. I went out to the yard and I said, Stormy, I am sorry. I do not want to fight with you. And
I told her to come and say that to my face, and she did. I raised my hand as if to slap her.
As if to slap her. That's
Listen,
the key point.
she's
I would not slap
she
her.
is not a mind reader. You raise your hand in that kind of a heated moment, and she grabbed your hand because she thought you were going to slap her in the face. That's what you said in any event. Miss Lee, she had every right, based upon what happened that day, to file an application for protective order against you. So your case for false arrest is denied. That's all. Step out.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Jealousy.
Stating that I'm jealous.
The relationship between my grandfather and I.
Anybody's jealousy, it's my sister.
She's angry.
She has her hate.
And she's upset
That her mother and I feel for each other.
that I was right and she was wrong.
And it's really sad.
Nothing really to do with her anymore.
Property manager Peter Sidlaka for fees for an eviction case. He's countersuing for the loss of his building.
Order. All rise. Quiet, please. Your Honor, this is case number 665 on the calendar in the matter of Taylor versus Sadlaka. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated.
Ms. Taylor, you're an attorney.
Yes, Your Honor.
This is a suit against a former client of yours for non-payment of a legal fee that had been part of a retainer agreement. Is that right?
That's correct, yes.
Can I see the retainer agreement, please?
It's a retainer with the signature.
All right, so you signed this retainer agreement?
Yes, ma'am.
And for what period of time did you represent the defendant?
I represented him from March 10th of '98 was our first meeting, and on August 7th, I told him I would not represent him anymore.
What kind of proceeding was this?
It was a commercial eviction. He's the owner of property. There's a bar on the premises, and he was trying to evict the tenant.
Why did you tell him that you would no longer represent him?
Mr. Sidlaka was very difficult to represent. The first action we brought, when he came to my office, he already had an action underway, and he had gone to court and said that no rent had been paid, when in fact the rent had been paid to his lawyer prior to the court date.
So he had a prior lawyer?
Yes.
Is that correct, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
After that, I served a notice. I reviewed his documents regarding the lease and the documents that he gave me, and I served a notice on his tenant, noting all the violations of the terms of the lease. And after 20 days, we were to bring an eviction action. By the time we got to court, he had accepted rent, which after you terminate a tenancy, accepting rent begins a new tenancy. So again, we had to go and apologize to the judge and say that we could not go forward with the proceeding.
Did you explain to him that he couldn't accept rent?
I explained to him when he told me he had received an accepted rent, but he didn't ask me at the time he received it what he should do. Instead, he asked a friend of his, and his friend gave him the advice to accept the rent.
Now, when did you find out that he had had a prior lawyer who accepted rent for him?
When he came into my office on March 10th.
How many lawyers have you had in the last 2 years?
Ms. Taylor and my first lawyer.
Are you telling me that in the last 2 years, with regards to any action that you have had on this property, you only had 2 lawyers?
That's correct.
All right, when did you buy this property?
I sold it in August of '94
You sold it to whom?
to my tenants.
You sold it in 1994. What were you suing them for rent for in '98?
They breached the contract, and I wanted to evict them. And I actually got an eviction granted on March 4th. The judge says, eviction granted. Then they came up with a show cause order for me. Well, I had all the goods on them. I said, let's go. Well, the second time around, I said, well, maybe I ought to take a lawyer on and go and see the judge the second time around, because all I got is a formality here. On March 16th, after confiding in Ms. Taylor, we went to court. And we stood there like we are right now. I'm in a situation with all this evidence in front of me. My tenant's landlord and Ms. Taylor walk up to the judge. They did a little bit of whispering, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then she walked back out of me and says, we have to leave now. This confused me a lot, because I just wanted to be heard and have the judge decide what the problem.
Had you accepted rent just prior to your going into court on that occasion with Ms. Taylor?
No.
Are you telling me, sir, that from the time you went into Ms. Taylor's office, when you first retained her, to the time you appeared before the judge that you've just described to me, you accepted no rent from the tenant?
No, but what I...
Who did?
I did on March 4th, not on March 16th.
No. Listen to me carefully.
Yes.
So the answer to my question is, on March 4th, you accepted rent from your tenant.
Correct.
Just listen.
Yes.
And on March 16th, you went to court with Miss Taylor. Is that right?
That is correct.
When you accepted the rent on March 4th from your tenant, did you consult Miss Taylor prior to you accepting the rent?
I didn't know her then.
Your Honor, he did have another attorney at that time.
Did you consult your other attorney?
No, because he didn't. He wrote me a letter that said that he was dropping my case after not taking care of the business at hand.
Just a second.
Okay.
Did you, prior to March 16th, notify Miss Taylor that you had accepted rent?
Yes.
When?
When I saw her. I don't remember what date we sat down and talked, but I did tell her this.
Ms. Taylor, did he ever tell you prior to you going to court that he accepted rent?
He told me after he'd already gone in front of the judge on his own and asked for an eviction based on non-payment, and we went in on the 16th to sort of make reparations and apologize to the judge.
That you could not go forward?
That's correct.
You owe her money. Period. End of discussion.
Well, that might
You
be
owe her
so,
money.
Your Honor. But that might be so. But there still is the fact that I was breached 6 different times, and all I wanted to do is have the judge look at the situation as it existed and cast a judgment on the contract that I had that said they should have been evicted by the contract that was written, not what could have happened.
Mr. Sidlaka, let me tell you something. There are a lot of lawyers in the United States of America.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of lawyers who practice. There are very, very few lawyers that tell a client to go take a hike, that we don't want to represent you anymore. Lawyers are used to dealing with difficult clients.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
So if you don't like what the judge did, file a complaint. They'll take your complaint, they'll throw it in the garbage.
And later today,
Madam, this is a court. Courts deal with contracts, verbal contracts or written contracts, not what you feel.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Attorney Suzanne Taylor is suing property manager Peter Sedlaka for her fees for an eviction case.
What I'm hearing today is that your first lawyer discharged you as a client. That's what you told me.
Yes.
And your second lawyer discharged you as a client.
Yes.
I can understand why. You owe her the money. Now, she sent you a bill for $1,000. You have an item, you have an accounting form?
I have the invoice that I sent on August 7th when I discharged him. Since then, it's been interest and collection costs, which are under the retainer agreement.
You received this?
Well, yes, I did.
Good. Did you ever, in writing, question any of the charges here?
From Ms. Taylor?
Yes.
No.
Good.
But I definitely did question the judge not speaking to me. This whole thing could have been settled. When I stood in front of the judge, he said, look, you don't have enough here, even though you got 5 different counts on these people for eviction. Sorry, you can't do it. We stood in front of that judge and we walked out that day. I was not satisfied.
Well, whether you're satisfied or not, that has nothing to do with your paying her.
Oh, I don't mind paying her.
Good!
But that does not negate the fact that I was not I had no due process of law in the
Write a
courtroom
letter to
itself.
Dear Abby, sir. Let me tell you something. Judges don't necessarily hear litigants individually when they're represented by counsel. When I have an attorney before me who's representing somebody and the client opens their mouth and wants to speak, I say to them, sir or madam, you have the following choices. Either you discharge your attorney, in such case you are appearing pro se and I will listen to you. Otherwise, whatever you have to say to me, you say to me through your lawyer.
True.
So if you don't like what the judge did, file a complaint. They'll take your complaint and they'll throw it in the garbage. This lady you're going to pay. And this nonsense counterclaim that because of her mishandling of your case, you lost your building, is nonsense.
True. But it isn't nonsense, sir.
Of course it is.
Well, then none of this.
Of course it is.
None of these breaches count then. All these breaches.
Just a second.
Yes.
You had 2 lawyers.
Mm-hmm.
2.
True. I'm not. Look, the lawyers. If the judge had just told me that
This has nothing to do with the judge. The judge isn't on trial here,
no,
sir.
he is. No, he isn't.
That's
but had he
right.
just listened to the breaches that were concerned here, he could have seen that these people should have been gone.
Shoulda, woulda, coulda. He didn't want to hear him that day because you had accepted rent. And once you accept rent, the eviction proceeding is over. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
All right, no problem.
The fact of the matter is that he sold the building, and he regretted that later, and he was trying to find a way to undo it.
They tell me now that because it's all past and water under the bridge, I can't do it any longer. Only one shot at the brass ring, right?
And now the next case.
Party's on Medeiros versus Roden. Step forward, please.
Bowling League member Julie Medeiros says substitute bowler Wayman Roden owes her half the money won in a Las Vegas tournament. Wayman claims they had no agreement to split the winnings.
You two folks are in a bowling league. Is that right?
Yes.
According to your complaint, there is a tournament, a big tournament held in Las Vegas. Mm-hmm. And for personal reasons, you were unable to go. Is that right?
Considering not going, yes.
You were unable to go. The defendant went in your place. You said you had an agreement with him that should the team win, you would receive half of the winnings.
I made an agreement that no matter what the team wins, I get half of the winnings.
Fine. Team won. He refused to give you half the winnings.
True.
Okay. And your defense is what, sir?
Basically what she said, except that I didn't agree to give her half of anything. I agreed to share the winnings with her. But
That's
she's claiming that everything that I received is winnings, and even the IRS will let you deduct your out-of-pocket expenses before they ask for their share.
So what your defense is that you did agree to share the winnings with her.
Right.
But that you had certain out-of-pocket expenses, and some of your out-of-pocket expenses were what you put into the league.
Right.
How much exactly did each team member win?
We received $550 each.
What you say you should be getting $225.
550 I should be getting.
Why?
Pardon me?
Well, just a second. Now my question to you is, why, if the team won $550, you don't dispute that?
No.
And given the best case scenario for you, that he agreed to give you half the winnings, that's $225. So I don't understand why you are suing him for $525.
Yeah, I'm suing him for $525 because everyone puts into the league throughout the year. And at the end of the season, each person puts in $250 towards their trip there.
Right.
Okay, so I've out of pocket there $250.
But he didn't agree to give you that.
No, he didn't. And the only reason that I asked for it
Yeah.
was because he then didn't agree to give me what we had verbally agreed upon. So I also asked for the $250, what I was out of pocket. Letting him go, letting him go in my place.
I'm speaking. Madam, this is a court. Courts deal with contracts, verbal contracts or written contracts. Not what you feel, but verbal or written contracts. You had no agreement with him if he went in your place to cover what you had put into the league up until the time of the tournament.
That was not our agreement, no.
It was not your agreement, so you
No.
can't sue on it. What are you suing on?
That's what I was asking for.
Well, I just want you to understand
Right.
why I would not consider it, because it's foolishness. It's what a court is. Court deals with contracts. So it's $275.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You got a bargain, Mr. Roden, for your $120. For your $120, you got 2 nights stay, and you got 2 meals a day, including 2 banquets. So don't give me nonsense about your $120 when you contributed half of what everybody but 2 people did to go to the league.
Closed captioning, sponsored in part by Real Cases, Real People, Judge Judy. Bowling League member Julie Medeiros is suing substitute bowler Wayman Roden for half the money won in a Las Vegas tournament.
Now, why shouldn't I give her $275?
Because I didn't win $550.
What did you win?
I won $171.
How did you win $171?
I received $550, but I had out-of-pocket expense.
What out-of-pocket expense?
I paid $128 into the league.
Just a minute. Well, so did she. So what? The $128 into the league, sir, listen to me. According to her, each person contributes so much towards going to the tournament.
Right.
Is that right?
Right.
And that's what your $120 was. right? Going towards going.
It goes into
Listen
the
to me.
prize fund.
Whatever it is. She contributed $250. Put your hand down. She contributed $250. You
Right.
contributed $120. Did you have to contribute any more than the $120?
I didn't have to.
Good. So that she contributed $250, and based at least in part on the fact that she contributed the $250, you were able to go. Is that right?
No.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Listen to me. Listen to me. Does every team member, pay attention, does every team member contribute $250
No.
for the privilege of going through the course of the year?
No.
They contribute different amounts?
Yes.
Based on what?
You pay a certain amount each week that you bowl.
Right, but that has to, are you telling me, Mr. Roden, that every member of the league contributes different amounts?
Okay, I subbed for 3 different people, and I paid into the league during that time. I asked the secretary, how many games do I have to bowl to be eligible to go? She said, you have to bowl 45 games.
Just a second. Are you from the league? Is that
Yes.
you look like you have something to say? Step up here, please. I just have a few questions for you. Tell me your name.
My name's Robin Sloan.
Miss Sloan, how many people are there in this league?
56.
And do you take care of the finances for this? How many people actually go to Las Vegas from your league for the tournament?
56.
And what amount does everybody put into this general fund in order to go?
$250.
No.
Per person.
No way.
Raymond was a sub in the league. He's
Yes.
an alternate.
Right.
So he didn't have a guaranteed spot to go. He was just trying to get enough games in to be eligible to go. He didn't pay $250 into the league, but Julie did, and so did all the other 55 bowlers.
Okay. Now, was he the only sub?
No.
There were other subs. How many?
Yes.
One other.
Okay.
And how much money did he get?
I didn't have arrangement with Cecil, sorry.
Mr. Roden,
Yes.
you're wrong, sir. You're wrong. Now, this $250, what does it go for?
It goes for the hotel, food, and their tournament expense.
Okay. So the hotel, and how many days do you stay at the hotel?
2 nights and 3 days.
Okay. Do you share a room with
Yes,
someone?
it's double occupancy.
Okay, and it pays for a meal allowance?
You get 2 meals, 2 dinner banquets, and then you have 2 brunches.
Okay, and that's what this $250 is for?
Right.
Is that right?
Yes.
You got a bargain, Mr. Roden. Okay. For your $120. For your $120, you got 2 nights stay, and you got 2 meals a day, including 2 banquets. So don't give me nonsense about your $120 when you contributed half of what everybody but 2 people did to go to the league. So what other out-of-pocket expenses did you have?
To get there and back. It's 1,100 miles from my house to Las Vegas.
So who dragged you?
No one.
Good. You didn't have an arrangement with her when you said to her, I'll share the expenses with you. You didn't say, I'll share the expenses with you and deduct from the expenses that I will share with you my gas and wear and tear on my
I didn't tell her
car.
a percentage of anything either. Not 50% or not 1%. I just said I would share.
Well, then,
and do what was
just
right.
a second. Shh. Are you speaking out?
No.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Want justice? Call 1-888-800-JUDY. On the internet, judgejudy.com.
Well, Mr. Roden, then, based upon what she says, you said you would give her half. Based upon what you say, you will share the winnings with her. So that, let us assume that I believe you. Then that leaves up to the court, not to you, what I believe is fair.
That's right.
Good. And I believe that anything other than a 50% split would be arbitrary, because I could say it could be 40%, it could be 33%. That would be arbitrary of me. Right? If I were to say to you, Mr. Roden, what do you think a fair allocation is, then you would say 30% or 25%, and you would be rewriting this agreement. So somebody has to rewrite the agreement, because you did, according to you, have an agreement to share.
That's correct.
I believe share means 50%. Judgment for the plaintiff, $275. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
I offered to give her $122. Well, after I offered it to her, she called me, so I told her that cost her $122.
Well, I think that when you make a verbal agreement with someone that you should back it up.
Ruled Annette Robinson and her husband Richard Scott, 40, for scratching her car as Merica picked up her child.
Order. All rise. Your Honor, this is case number 642 on the calendar in the matter of Patterson versus Robinson. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Who are you?
The plaintiff.
Well, you're the plaintiff because the car that was allegedly damaged was your car, is that right?
Yes.
But you don't know anything about this. You weren't there.
I wasn't there when.
So why don't you have a seat? Okay. Miss Patterson, this gentleman is your former husband, is that correct?
That's correct.
How long have you been divorced?
Since '96.
And you have one child together?
Correct.
How old is that child?
My son is 4.
And you are his present fiancé?
Yes.
Well, in this unfortunate situation, the basics of it are that you went to pick up your son from a period of visitation at their house.
That's correct.
And there was an altercation between you and Miss Robinson. You claim that during that altercation, she damaged your car. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. So Sunday at 8 o'clock, you arrived to pick him up, and what happened?
Instead of my son coming down, Annette came down and she...
This is Annette.
Correct. And she came to my car and she had my son's boot with her. And I asked where my son was, and she says, I want to talk to you first. And she laid across my car like this, holding the boot, and she kept telling me that I was going to talk to her. I was not going to get my son until I talked to her. She would give me this boot back now and give me back the other one when she received Drew's Nikes back. And
Drew's Nikes, you mean his sneakers?
Correct. And I just didn't want to go through all this. I just wanted to get my child and leave. They have a locked door on their apartment, so I can't, I have to sit down there and wait for them to bring my child out. And instead of my child being down there, she came down.
So your complaint says that she scratched the roof of your car with this boot.
Correct.
Let me see the damage to your car. So there's a long scratch on the car.
Correct.
One scratch, is that right? Okay. Miss Robinson, would you mind telling me what you were doing coming down to talk to her?
Mrs. Patterson has made an issue about all the clothing that Andrew wears. So what I did is I just simply went down there to talk to her. She had accused me of giving away Andrew's shoes to their child.
When did she accuse you of giving away his clothes?
Earlier that week. She had called me and asked me where his other shoe was, and I said I'm looking for it. He threw it when he was taking off his shoes and get ready for a bath. So I told him I was still looking for his other shoe, and just give me a minute, or just give me some time, and I'll find the other one.
What else was there in the conversation?
That was it.
Well, then she didn't accuse you of giving away his clothes.
She asked me, well, I think you gave it away to Nellie, which is another little girl Andrew currently plays with and talks a lot about.
Did you ever say that to her?
No, the only reason that got brought up, I asked her about it, is because my son came home saying that Nellie wore his shoes home. So I asked her about that.
So the mother comes to pick up the child after a period of visitation, and you go down there with one shoe. Mm-hmm. Now, what was the purpose of going down there with the one shoe?
Letting her know that the other one was lost. I was very genuine about letting her know. I'm very serious.
The other one of this was a pair?
Yeah.
So why didn't you just come downstairs, or why didn't you go downstairs with your son to keep this very calm?
Well, for one thing, I didn't want to get Drew in the middle of an argument because she
wouldn't have been an argument.
She makes an issue out of everything, Your Honor. Everything, and I try to keep Andrew out of it. So
good. Then she should have kept Andrew out of it, and you go downstairs and talk to your ex-wife. I mean, had you been friendly with each other before this incident?
No.
Listen, tell me about the shoe. I don't see how this shoe could have caused the scratches to your car, madam. I really don't.
Okay, I don't know if the shoe does have the eyelets on it and stuff, but I don't know if maybe there was a rock in the bottom of the shoe at the time, or the fact that she does have a big, bulky watch that she wears, and that she was laying across my car like this. So not that it's just that the fact that she did have the shoe in her hand, And that's what was of her body was touching the car, was her arms and the shoe. And she was waving her arms across the top of the car and pounding the shoe on top of my car, telling me that I was not going to get my son until I discussed this issue with her.
Look, there was a big problem about clothes because I read your answer very carefully. I read it and I didn't like it. I didn't like it because originally, according to your answer, you were going to drop off the little boy at his mother's house. Is that right? On that day? Wasn't that your plan?
That's what started, yes.
And then you decided not to do it because of this clothes problem. That's what it says here. Right? We had second thoughts about returning Andrew directly to their house, though, because he was wearing clothes Rick and I bought. Marcia had made a big issue about these clothes often failing to return to us, the ones that we sent. So we decided it would be best to send Andrew home in the clothes that his mother sent him over in. So that means that this little 4-year-old boy comes back from wherever you had him out for the day, and you say you have to get out of those clothes. You have to put on your mommy clothes. These are your daddy clothes. You got to put on your mommy clothes. Is that what you're telling me? Come on. What you're doing by saying that to him is, this is not a nice thing between my mother and my father. They make me change my shoes and my socks and my underwear and my clothes in order to go back to my mother. Don't you see that there's something wrong with that?
Yes, I do.
So why do you do it?
This has been going on for a while. We've been sending them over in clothes and never said anything. We've not gotten any of the clothes back. Or when she sends them back over, they're not even in half the clothes we even sent over. I've never seen them again.
Let me ask you this question, sir. Does she have another 4-year-old child in her house?
No.
So whatever clothes you buy for your son, he's wearing.
Right.
He may be wearing them to school. He may be wearing them out to play. Now, he also, I'm going to ask you one other question. He doesn't come to your house for the start of visitation naked. Right?
No, he comes in clothes that are almost 2 sizes too small for him. I mean, I can't even take him to the store after I pick him up. I have to take him home and change him first.
He doesn't come to your house naked.
No, he doesn't.
Okay. So what difference does it make?
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
Annette, butt out.
And later today,
Now, you got some heck of a nerve to give her $15 Christmas time on a $3,000 debt.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Marica Patterson claims her former husband's fiancée, Annette Robinson, scratched her car when she picked up her child.
You see, just so that you'll recognize this, first wives and second wives don't get along. That's just the way it is. They could be both lovely people. It's the rare case where the first wife and the second wife get along, and the only time that that usually happens is when they both hate the husband. That's just the way life is. So you don't send your fiancé down to do your bidding because it's just dumb and counterproductive.
I didn't send her down, Your Honor. She made that choice to go down.
Well, that was ridiculous. And it shouldn't happen again. Because if you return Andrew to his mother when she's been agitated by something that your fiancé does, who do you think's going to suffer? You're supposed to try to alleviate whatever stressors you can. This is a stressor. Now, you may not be able to alleviate the stressors that exist between the two of you, although that's really dumb, because if he wasn't a great guy for you, maybe a great guy for this lady, but he wasn't great for you. You have a nice new husband? You happy?
Yeah.
Terrific. He's going to have a nice new wife. He's going to be happy. Terrific. You happen to have a child together that's going to tie you together for the next 30 years probably, or more. So you try to get along.
We didn't have any problems for a long time until she came along and started trying to maneuver and instigate and make decisions and do things. We really didn't have a problem between the both of us.
The main reason that Annette kind of took over on some of the things is because whenever I would take Andrew down with me, she would chew on me right in front of Andrew.
That
So I
is
didn't want that.
unacceptable. Listen to me. When the child is there, nobody is to say anything negative or that would precipitate an argument. Hello, how are you? Did you have a nice time? Thank you very much. I'd like to speak to you. Give me a buzz later in the house. Period. And when you take the call, take it and make sure that Andrew isn't around. Both of you. It's as simple as that. You should have absolutely no reason to have any negative conversation with him.
When I go to pick him up, I don't talk to them at all. I just take my son and leave. It's when she comes down to the car and my child's not there, I don't have a choice. I don't wish to speak
Has
with
this
him.
happened before?
With Annette coming down to my car, yes. This happened 2 other times that she came down to my car and they held my son in the apartment.
For what reason?
So I would talk to her about whatever issues they felt were issues at the time.
Annette, butt out. It's none of your business. Zero. You have no business getting yourself involved and injecting yourself into their life. Absolutely none. Listen to me. Don't be a wimp. Don't send her down to do your work. To send this lady, seems like a nice lady, down to do your job, understanding the premise that I started with today was first wives and second wives usually don't get along, is a very foolish thing to do and not good for your son. And certainly not over clothes. It's not such a big deal. I mean, I don't know whether you send him over in clothes that are not of good quality. If you're doing it to be a little spiteful and to give him a dig, don't do it because it's hurtful to your child. But they're his clothes. They're not your clothes. They're not her clothes. They're his clothes, and he's wearing them. Stop making a big deal about it. This is nonsense. Hey, Miss Patterson, you have another child now. You have a daughter, right? I assume that you would scratch the eyes out of any person who tried to emotionally harm either of your 2 children. Is that right?
That's correct.
And that's the way you should feel as well. When he hears either parent talking badly about the other, even when you're talking to his father on the phone, that does not make him feel good. If you're doing it, stop. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
America is just jealous of Annette more than anything is what I think it is. She thinks that she's, jealous that maybe Andrew might like her more or something. I'm not sure exactly what it is.
The truth of it being is we take very good care of that child. He don't pay child support. He's over 3 years back behind child support.
And now the next case.
All parties on Bates versus Barkdull. Step forward, please.
Retiree Alga Bates claims 40-year-old waitress Sharon Barkdow owes her over $3,000. Sharon claims Alga is trying to ruin her life.
Miss Bates, according to your complaint, the defendant was a neighbor of yours and became a friend. Is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
And according to your complaint, she told you that she had some financial problems.
Yes, Your
and
Honor.
that you loaned her, in a series of loans, $3,025. Is that right?
No, Your Honor. We loaned her $3,840, and she paid back $815, which left a balance still to be paid of $3,025.
Thank you. Okay, now, Miss Barkdow, you acknowledge in your answer to her complaint that you borrowed this money.
Yes.
And you say, however, that after you borrowed the money, she became controlling of your life, caused you a lot of stress. Therefore, you are not going to pay her a penny. And in addition, you're countersuing for $5,000 for nuisance, harassment, pain, and suffering. So, Miss Bates, you don't have to say anything. She's acknowledged that she borrowed the money. She's acknowledged that the outstanding amount is $3,025. Is that right?
That's correct.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
How dare you have a Christmas party when you still owe her $3,000? You got some heck of a nerve. I mean, if you're a big girl and you don't want somebody to act like your mother, start growing up.
Closed captioning sponsored in part by real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Alga Bates is suing Sharon Barkdale for the return of over $3,000 in loans.
Okay, now, Miss Barkdale, convince me.
All right. In December, Olga and I were very good friends, and at that time, she had become controlling of my life. She was like a mother figure to me. I felt very close to her, but the more that I felt close to her, the more controlling she became over me. So at that point, I severed the relationship. I felt like she wanted to sever the relationship, and I was still paying her small amounts of money until one day I went to work and she left a message on my machine saying that if I didn't pay her more money, that she was going to have me fired from the Hyatt, or go to the Hyatt, excuse me, not fired, go to the Hyatt and tell my employer that I owed her this money. So I wrote her a letter saying, please don't do that, because if you do that, it's going to cause these problems. Number one, they don't want to hear personal problems. Number two, if you do that, I'll get fired and I won't have a job to pay you back. And number three, here's $15 intent to pay, and let's work through this. So after that happened, I had a Christmas tree in my house, and I had sent out some invitations for a party. I left a cocktail notice on one of the neighbors upstairs, and she went and got it off his door and called him in LA and told him that I was having a cocktail party. She then leaves a recording, 2 different recordings on my answering machine, saying that, oh, you have this big cocktail party, you know, you owe me this money, surely you're not paying for it. Then her husband left a message after that saying, we do not want anything to do with you anymore. So I said, fine, if that's what this is about. So I went and got a restraining order on her, a temporary restraining order, because she was walking past me and saying, oh, there's the girl having the big cocktail Christmas party. And I mean, and it was just ridiculous. It was like all I wanted to do was continue paying her.
Just a minute. Give me the best reason you have for not paying her.
The best reason is I got fired from the Hyatt Hotel, and where am I going to get the money to pay her now?
Did you get fired because of her?
I believe I did.
No. Well, then, if you believe you did, you got fired because of her, why don't you tell me how?
Because she left a message on my machine saying to me, and it was like on a Friday, and she said, if you don't pay me the money that you owe me, I am going to the Hyatt Hotel, and I'm going to tell them that you owe me this money.
Okay.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. Want justice? Call 1-888-800-JUDY. On the internet, judgejudy.com.
Here we go. A, your countersuit is dismissed. It's nonsense. You don't like the way somebody is talking to you. This is not nuisance, harassment, or anything else. It's somebody who's trying to give you some advice, even though you didn't ask for it. You're a big girl. If you don't like the advice, you don't listen to it and tell her, I don't want to listen to your advice. Don't talk to me anymore. That's not nuisance. That's not harassment. And certainly the only pain and suffering that I see in this case is from these 2 people that lent you money. Now, you got some heck of a nerve to give her $15 Christmas time on a $3,000 debt, $3,000, and then go out and have a party in your house. Big party, little party. You went out and bought invitations. You went out and mailed the invitations. You had a party. You served liquor. You served food. You had to spend at least $100. Can't do a party for less. Right, Bert?
Not doing
No. No. Can't do a party for less. How dare you have a Christmas party when you still owe her $3,000? You got some heck of a nerve. I mean, if you're a big girl and you don't want somebody to act like your mother, start growing up. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,025.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy, Amber Mayhew for back child support for their 3-year-old daughter. Amber is countersuing for utilities.
Order. All rise. Your Honor, this is case number 645 on the calendar in the matter of Mayhew versus Mayhew. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Have a seat, please.
Mr. Mayhew, you and the defendant were married. You are now divorced, and you have custody of the child of the marriage. How old is that child?
3.5.
Boy, girl?
Girl.
Girl. You are suing the defendant for back child support.
Yes, Your Honor.
What does she owe you?
$13.28.
There is a counterclaim here by Ms. Mayhew for some old utility bill.
Correct.
And for some other nonsense. All right, Mr. Mayhew, how long has your daughter been in your custody?
Since she was born, and then when she left in October of 98, 7.
Do you visit with your daughter?
Yes, I do.
Okay. I read in your answer what seemed to be a suggestion that you do owe him money for child support. Is that right?
Yes, the first 2 months. I paid him little bits, $50, $30.
And then you say you've been consistent with your
I
payments
have been
since?
consistent with all of my payments.
Show me.
I have a list here of the time and dates that I paid, and I have a few, what do you have it, money order stubs that I have. That's the only receipts. I don't have receipts. I paid him cash the whole year.
Did she pay you cash the whole year, sir?
No, she didn't. I have a breakdown of what she did pay.
And also, here's another one for, I put her in daycare. She's in daycare this month. That's my...
Well, what does your judgment of divorce provide for with regard to payments?
$158 a month.
And it's your testimony that but for the first couple of months you were regular in your payments?
I was supposed to start paying in February. I did not start paying until the middle of March.
No, that's wrong, Your Honor. She didn't start paying until August.
Miss Mayhew, you see you have a problem. Let me tell you what your problem is. When somebody sues for back child support, he says you haven't paid. You have some receipts that you did make payments, and he says you did make certain payments. So you are going to have to establish to me that you made these payments, because most people, when they make child support payments, they make payments by check.
I trusted him. I was with him since I was 15 years old. When I left him, I did not have a job. I did not have any direction at all whatsoever. As soon as I did start working full-time, I paid him. She's my daughter. I was an at-home mother with her for 2.5 years. I would not be a loser mom and not pay my child support, period. He is lying. I paid him, period. I have my witness, has been there a few times.
Well, I'll hear your witness.
She also has heard him say that he's going to get me back for anything he can because I messed him up. He wants to, screw me over.
What's your name?
Allison Noah.
Miss Noah, can you recall dates, times, and places where you saw exchanges of cash between the plaintiff and the defendant?
I know for sure on August 3rd, their daughter's birthday, I went to their daughter's birthday party, and I saw her pay him $80 in cash that day.
That's not correct, Your Honor. She never gave me any money on her birthday. Her father, I guess, offered to pay me $60 towards the birthday party, and I refused to take it. I paid for the whole birthday party and everything. She never gave me any cash during that time.
Did you see her?
Yes. I saw
give
her
him
give
cash?
him money, yes.
At any other time, did you see him accept cash from her, and in what amounts?
One other time in October, my daughter and I were with her and her daughter, and we were in her car taking her daughter to his house. And she gave him, I saw her take cash up to him. I assumed it was $80 because that's how much.
You didn't know how much it was, but you saw him actually accept money.
Yes.
Do you recall that?
It wasn't cash, it was one of the vouchers that she has up there, one of the receipts, because she was paying at that time.
No, it was cash,
No,
Your Honor.
it's not
It was
here.
cash.
This is not I don't have an October date there. She has 4
And the only reason I don't have
amounts.
receipts is leaving him, divorcing him, I was left with tons of creditors. I did not have a bank account. People were trying to garnish my wages, what little money I was making. I did it out of good faith. I mean, I've known him for, years. I gave him the money,
Mr. Mayhew,
yes.
Listen to me, sir. You just testified that you didn't get this payment that she's referring to in October. Is that what you're saying?
Right, I got it in a money order. I got money orders September, October, November, and December, and January. And then my wife served her with the court documents here, and she stopped paying. So I didn't receive anything from this year in February or March.
Miss Mayhew, you say that you missed a couple of months
Initially?
In 98, the beginning of
Just a second,
98.
Just a second.
Okay.
And other than that, you say you were current.
Yes.
Okay.
Every paycheck I got, he was my first person I paid.
Okay.
And the only reason.
Listen to me. Shh, listen to me. I'm getting somewhere.
Okay.
Did you pay him in January of 99?
Yes.
Did you pay him in February of 99?
Yes.
Show me.
I don't have proof of it.
Now I'm going to tell you why. If you're not honest with me right from the get-go, then you always catch yourself. Because you said to me, other than the first couple of months, I've paid him regularly. Then problems started the beginning of this year, the beginning of 99. When were you served with a summons for back child support in the family court? In what month?
I'm really not even sure.
You have a witness?
Yes,
Or
I
can you
do.
tell me? Step up, please. You're Miss Mayhew?
Yes.
When did you serve the defendant with the summons for the family court on the issue of back child support?
In February, early February. I don't have the exact date. We
First.
filed on February 1st.
Okay.
You served her that night.
And I served her that night, so February 1st.
Okay. Now, one of the problems that I have, Miss Mayhew, is you did not pay in February at all, and I'm going to tell you why I know that. Because according to the papers that you give me, you show that you have made payments in December, January 19th, 1999, and January 5th, 1999. Okay? So you made 2 payments in January, but clearly you made no payments for February. And did you make any payments thus far in March?
No.
All right. So that clearly there's at least a couple of months that you didn't pay him in September, according to you. Clearly, you made no payments in February, and clearly you made no payments in March.
No.
And you didn't make any payments at the beginning, in September and
No, I did not.
October. Okay. For the first couple of months at least.
The main reason I didn't is he told me he wanted to garnish my wages. That's how it should have been in the beginning. I said, you want money from me? Garnish my wages. Since he's met his new wife, he took, Casey from me. I had her 50% of the time, and after that, it just all went downhill.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
Miss Mayhew, who do you think should provide you with a roof over your head? Except you.
Myself, definitely,
Perfect.
I agree.
So you don't get any medals
All
for that.
right,
That's what
all
you're
right.
supposed to do.
You're right.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Sean Mayhew is suing his ex-wife, Amber Mayhew, for back child support. Amber is countersuing for utilities.
All right.
Your Honor?
Yes.
Okay. I filed through the state to petition to garnish her wages because every time she would come over and make a payment, we would get in a fight.
You don't have to necessarily garnish her salary. That can come if she doesn't pay. Clearly she hasn't paid. They're going to garnish her wages now and have the payments made directly through the court. You don't necessarily have to get her employer involved. If she was paying directly, she could just make the payments through the court.
Right.
So that there would be a record. So that you both learned a very interesting lesson. And the lesson is you're supposed to have receipts, but you owe them a lot of money. Because you owe them a lot of money taking what you say as true, at least part of it.
I swear to God, Your Honor.
No. Listen to me. Taking what you say is true that we found out today. You haven't paid him for a couple of months when you started. You didn't pay him in February, and you didn't pay him in March. The grand total of that is $1,040. Okay, that's a lot of money. Now let's get to your counterclaim.
Where did you think I'm not paying? Where I missed that.
Where? Don't miss it. Did you give him money in November?
I was not ordered to pay him.
I didn't ask you whether you were
no,
ordered.
I did not.
That's
no, I
not
did
my
not.
question.
No, I did not, Your Honor.
Did you give him money in December of 97?
No, I did not.
January of 98?
No, I did not.
February of 98?
No, I did not.
Well, you mean you just told me a moment ago that you didn't have to be ordered by anybody. You know that you have a responsibility. You wouldn't just be a deadbeat mother. And I'm going to tell you, there's a lot of talk about deadbeat fathers when they leave and they don't pay until they're ordered to pay. You said to me that I wasn't under an order to pay. That doesn't mean you don't pay child support. That doesn't mean you don't say...
I completely agree, Your Honor.
So?
Completely agree.
So stop complaining. How many months did you get away with not sending support until you were ordered?
I didn't get away with not
sending
sending support.
Did they make a retroactive order in the court? Did they make a retroactive order? Well, they should have. If you were before me, you would have gotten a retroactive order from the time you didn't pay.
The courts do not differentiate between fathers and mothers with regard to paying child support. Both parents are responsible to pay child support.
Definitely.
If you walk out of a marriage, that's your prerogative, but you can't walk out of your responsibility to support your child. Now let's get to this ridiculous utility bill that you have here that you counterclaim. You say when I split up, he was to take care of the utility bill, and he did not. You want to tell me about that?
Him and his ex-girlfriend Pam were living there. She moved in a week, 2 after I moved out.
Show me.
I'm being sued for the amount here. And I asked him for the PGE bill. I'm there now.
Well, show me. What dates? I assume there are dates on that.
There might not be, just the amount.
Well, what am I supposed to do with this? You say it was at a time when they were living there and you were not.
Yeah, I had taken myself off the lease. That's all I had. It was an old bill. It was from 97 into 98. It was approximately 3 months worth of PGE, and he was supposed to have put it in his name, and he didn't. And it was my responsibility not turning it off in my name.
Did you pay the utility bills?
Yes, I paid for everything. She had her mail forwarded. I never got a bill for it. I tried to get in contact with her, but the first 2 months,
you never shut it off in your name.
Just a second.
I can't shut the electricity bill off when it's in somebody else's name.
In what month did you put the electric bill in your name?
I think it was January.
Okay. So for the months of October, November, and December,
right,
it was in her name.
Right.
Okay, and you did not pay those bills because you did not get those bills.
Right.
Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. Well, then you have to pay the electricity bill that
Okay.
you owe, right?
Right. I can understand
Good.
that to the point.
Perfect.
Except for that she stuck me with I have to pay for a babysitter because she took off right away on the spur of a moment.
Hey, don't talk to him. Don't talk to him.
Excuse me, sorry, Your Honor.
So
we don't
I was
upset.
already living check to check.
Listen
so
to me.
And I was living with nothing. Excuse me.
You have to pay for the electric because you use it. You're not going to offset that because of a babysitter. This is your child. Are you happy having your daughter with you?
Oh, yes.
Perfect. And your daughter is fine?
Yes.
Perfect. Let me make some clear suggestions to you folks. I'm giving her credit for the utility bill, which is $350. I am not giving you missed work of $150. That's absolutely ridiculous. You probably caused more missed work for him than I guarantee you this utility bill.
I support a two-bedroom apartment all by myself, so taking a day off of work was very intense.
Let me ask Miss Mayhew, who do you think should provide you with a roof over your head, except you?
Myself, definitely.
Perfect.
I agree.
So you don't get any medals for that. That's what you're supposed to do.
You're right. Well, I was with him for 5 years, and that was like...
What?
It was a struggle for me. I'm very proud of myself. I'm very honored to say that I take care of a nice two-bedroom apartment and have my own car and pay my own insurance and pay all my own bills, and I'm not depending on anybody, and I still pay him the money.
That's what you should be. That's what all
Definitely,
should be,
but I'm
especially women.
proud. What can I say?
Especially women. They should always make sure that they can take care of themselves.
Judge Judy will continue. And later today.
And what you said to me, and the answer was, this is between brother and sister.
Closed captioning, sponsored in part by Real Cases, Real People, Judge Judy. Sean Mayhew is suing his ex-wife, Amber Mayhew, for back child support. Amber is countersuing for utilities.
I'm going to make the following suggestion. That any monies that you give him by certified check, by money order, keep a receipt, or by personal check, which you will get back from him. That you do not accept any cash from her, ever. I'm giving you certain credit for the utility bill of $350. I'm offsetting that against what I believe is a reasonable adjustment of the plaintiff's claim for back child support, and I'm awarding you, sir, $700. That's all.
Thank you, Your Honor.
This case basically shows that not all dads are deadbeat dads, and it could be the mother, too.
He said that he was going to do whatever he could to get me back, I screwed him, and, he was going to screw me.
And now the next case.
All parties on Neiman versus Brown. Step forward, please.
29-year-old teacher Kimberly Neiman and her husband, 36-year-old driving instructor Frederick Neiman, are suing Kimberly's father, 59-year-old Kenneth Brown, for a credit card he used to start a business with her brother.
I hate it when families sue each other. So, Miss Neiman, this is your dad. Is that right?
Yes.
And according to your complaint, some time ago, your dad asked to borrow some money from you.
That's correct.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
And you gave him a credit card.
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
And bill is way past now $5,000. And you want him to pay the bill. Okay, Mr. Brown.
I did ask to borrow the credit card. It was a bit small business.
I know that you have a daughter. According to your answer, you also have a son.
Yeah,
Was the credit card for your son's use or for your use?
for his use.
So why didn't he ask his sister to borrow the card?
They feud and fight.
What did you say to them when you borrowed the credit card?
I told her that Ken would be using it. His name is the same as mine.
Well, your problem, Mr. Brown, is I read your answer. And what you said to me in the answer was, this is between brother and sister.
Yeah.
You borrowed the credit card. You allowed your son to use it. You say she knew that he was going to use it for a business. Was this business that the two of you were starting together, you and your son?
Yeah, him and I originally, but then we collapsed it.
You have to pay the bill. And then if you feel as if your son owes you money because you had to take on this responsibility, you might have to do what she's doing now. But the card was given to you.
Correct. I just feel that the two of them knew what they were doing, both of them, both sides, that they ought to be dealing with each other.
Well, she knew what she was doing. She was loaning her father her credit card. Is that right?
That's correct.
And according to you, she and her brother didn't get along. Is that right?
Right.
So it's possible that if her brother came to her and said, I'd like to borrow a clean credit card that has a full line of credit, she would have said no. Right?
Possibly.
So you understand, sir, the reason that the credit card was given was because you asked for it. She was relying on you to pay off the bill. She wouldn't have given the credit card to your son. He probably knew that.
Yeah.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. Are you in a family dispute? Call 1-888-800-JUDY. On the internet, judgejudy.com.
So let me see the balance on the credit card.
This is the newest one. The balance is right.
Have you made any payments at all on these bills?
I have, yeah.
You have?
But they have paid me back. I have other credit cards that they owe me money on.
They advised you almost a year ago that they were removing you as an authorized user of the account. Is that right?
Yeah, we requested that.
You
yeah.
requested that.
Mhm.
Are any of these bills after they
There
were
has-
removed as an authorized user of the account?
There hasn't been anything since
There
then.
hasn't been anything after that? Okay. Well, this is well over the $5,000 limit, Mr. Brown. But this is your responsibility. And if you feel as if the business didn't go anywhere that you and your son went to, it failed?
Yeah.
Is that what happened?
Yes.
Well, that's not their fault. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all.
Parties excused, you may step out.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
I'd like everybody to get along, but I think it's going to be very hard, very difficult,
Yeah, I've been called everything but a nice guy by two kids that I raised.
because nobody wants to be responsible for their own actions.
All rise. Shh. Yeah, this is case number 685 on the calendar in the matter of Nocera versus Clark. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have seats, please.
How long have the two of you been neighbors?
Since December.
Of 1990?
8, ma'am.
And how long have you been living on that property, sir?
I've been in my home for 19 years.
So you just moved in?
Yes, ma'am.
Evidently, there's some major parking problem here. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Now, is there a garage where the two of you park your car?
No, we have assigned spots. They are small. And
But outdoor spots?
Yes.
Okay, and your spot is next to Mr. Clark's.
One of my spots. He's actually got 3 spots.
Good for him. He's been there 19 times as long as you have, so now he has 3 spots.
Right.
But one of his spots is next to your spot.
Correct.
And I gather that from the time Mr. Clark moved in, there has been an ongoing problem. Is that right?
Yes, it's very difficult to park in the back. I don't have much problem as I have a compact car, an 87 Honda. And the Clarks have a pickup truck, somewhat large, but...
it's a Ranger. It's a small truck. It's not a big truck.
It's a truck.
Right.
It's bigger than his car.
Not really, Your Honor. It's a light-duty truck. Doesn't have a standard cab. It's not very big. It doesn't take up a lot of parking spot. I mean.
Okay, but you've had ongoing problems with each other about this spot, about hanging over a little bit on his side and hanging over a little bit on your side. So this problem started. You got angry one day at him.
Correct.
I'm not going to go into the whole history of it. He says you came banging at his door.
Correct.
And you damaged the door. So, what brought you to his door?
Well, the fact that he parked in my parking spot intentionally, just to be snippy, just to instigate an incident. So I got mad at it. So I parked off street and I went up to his door and I started banging on his door. Now when I banged on his door, I noticed that it was loose and damaged up top, so I began to bang on the bottom. So, you know, I'm banging, I'm telling him to come out, and, you know, so he can move his car. Now before I went up, I noticed there was a letter hanging on his window saying, I have video footage of my car. If there's any damage, I will take you to court, as if I was going to do something to his car, which I wasn't. I just wanted him to move it. And that's what I was asking him to do. The whole time I'm yelling up to his window, please move your car, please move your car. Now he mentions in his letter that I made a homophobic remark to him, which I did, and I apologized to him for that. I had no right to say that to him. But, you know, but other than that, as far as the damage to his door, it never happened. And I have a witness, my wife, went up to his house. He was having interior work done, and he had invited her to his house. This was in December when we were on okay terms. And she noticed, and she can testify that his door was already, and it's rusted up top, and he already had damage done to his door. Because when I spoke to the detective...
Don't tell me what the detective said.
Okay.
Now, Mr. Nacera, he says, and you seem to indicate as well, that just prior to that, he had parked in your space or a little bit over your space. You went up to tell him to move his car, or you called to tell him to move his car, and he was in the shower. Is that right?
That's correct. That was that same day.
The same day. And your wife was at home?
Yes, Your Honor.
You drive?
No, I don't.
And you said, wait until I get out of the shower.
Right. Actually, I knew the car was not parked in the spot. When I had went out there after the shower, a quarter of an inch on the white line. On the white line. The white line's about this thick. My tires were a quarter of an inch on the white line, not in his parking spot.
Does that sound familiar to you, that you had a complaint that day?
Pretty much. That is, as I say, it is very difficult to get into those spots. Often the Clarks will park on the white line or in the white line on the front and slightly over the white line in the back. That makes it impossible.
There's bars in the way. There's no way I can...
Now, Mr. Nacera, according to Mr. Clark, sir, there was a time when you were friendly with his wife.
Yes, sure.
Until when?
Well, since December, there were incidences of where the car was parked over the line, either the front or the back. And Mr. Clark chooses to leave his tailgate down, which adds about 1.5 feet to the car, his truck. It makes it very difficult to get in, even with my Honda Civic. On that day that he says he's mistaken, I was in my spot, not over the line. I mean, I wouldn't purposely. I have pictures, Your Honor. I have a videotape.
And you'll actually see on the pictures that the door is actually ripped out.
Just a second, I haven't seen
I don't know
anything.
how banging caused that.
I haven't seen anything. It depends upon how hard you bang, sir.
Let's see. This is the wall inside, Your Honor, the damage that was done to inside my home.
How did he cause damage inside as a result of the banging?
Yes, he started off banging pretty hard. Somewhere about 10 minutes into this incident, he was pounding on the door, pounding on my window, ringing the doorbell.
Is that when he made this homophobic remark?
Yes, he was quite outraged, and he was saying pretty bad stuff. I don't know if I can repeat it here. There was a lot of F words, but he was very, very angry. And I was not about to open the door. In fact, I was on the 911 call, having the police come to try to work something out here. And the operator, in fact, heard the commotion and advised me not to.
Does the videotape have any part of this banging on the door?
Yes, it
Oh, it
sure
does. May I see it, please?
On February the 15th, at somewhere between 11:30, 12 o'clock on that night, when he vandalized my door, you'll see a few seconds of it because
That's all.
it's going to be very dark, and you may see.
He never opened the door.
You begin to see the.
That's.
He came up about 12 o'clock last night. He was banging on the door and banging on the door and banging on the door and ringing the doorbell. I mean, he was just livid. This is the second incident of him pounding. Which
I want to listen.
Can you answer the door, please? Very violent.
I think
no, it's the downstairs neighbor in 103. This is the second time. The last time he smashed my security door and caused damage to the wall inside. And now he's wanting me to come out and talk to him. I do not.
I think that is basically it.
And the second time I actually responded to that second time when I came to his door, it's because he sent me this letter in the mail. And at the bottom he puts, P.S. You are asked to respond to this letter in the normal time allowed. I don't get letters all the time, but I figured, okay, maybe he calmed down and maybe he wants to speak to the incident. So I had originally sent my wife up there to speak to him because I figured maybe he doesn't want to talk to me. And so he shuts the door on my wife, and then I thought, well, maybe he just wants to deal with me because it's between
No,
me
you
and
didn't.
her.
You got angry that he shut the door on your wife. Mr. Clark.
No, it wasn't because of that, Your Honor. It wasn't because I thought maybe he wants to speak to me. So when I went up, I even asked him, can you see it on the tape, can you please open the door? He claims it was banging. I call it knocking, but I mean, I probably should have caused an earthquake, according to him.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I said I touched his door. His door? Okay.
You
I
didn't
banged
touch
on
his door.
And later today,
You also say that you ought to pay the money back,
Verbally,
as opposed to what?
written contract.
You go to law school in between you driving a limousine?
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Sal Nocera wants his neighbor, James Clark, to pay for his damaged front door. James says Sal parked in his space, but he didn't damage the door.
Your Honor, I have tried also mediation through the court. Mr. Clark refused. I have that here. I have the police officer's report, the detective's report. I have estimates of the work.
Let me see. When did this incident occur? February of '99?
Yes, that would be the 15th. The second one was, I think, the 22nd, as indicated on the videotape.
I have to read something, Mr. Nocera. All right. The police officer noticed the following and made note of the following in his police report. He took a picture of the damage to the screen door. He also noted that the screen was pulled out from the frame about 6 inches and the securing welds had been broken. I checked the door frame and noticed 2 stress cracks about 8 inches long in the upper right-hand corner of the door frame. The plaintiff advised me that the cracks were not there before Clark's knocking and the banging incident. We're not talking about rust here to the door, sir. We're talking about a door being knocked off the welds, and we're talking about stress cracks. Now, do you have an estimate?
Yes, there are 2 estimates from 2 different places on the replacement of the security door. The other estimate is from the painter who painted. I saved 2.5 years to have my unit painted. And may I also, Judge, note that Mr. Clark did not apologize to me. However, he did say to the police officer that he did call me faggot.
I tried to apologize to him the second time I came up to his door, and he wouldn't answer it. He put in the letter that he wanted me to respond to it, and when I went up there, I told him that I apologized for making the homophobic remarks. That was it.
Well,
I
you
didn't
can
apologize
understand-
for damage. I
You
didn't
can
do.
understand, sir, and I read what the remarks were, and they were pretty egregious. You could understand why he would not open the door if you're screaming that to him through his door.
That was the first time. That
I'm
part.
talking about the first time. The first time is the time that I understand that this damage was done to the property. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Well, fine. So, would you please indicate to me exactly what it cost to have this door repaired as well as...
Yes, right. The door cannot be repaired.
So you have to get a new door?
Yes, ma'am. It
And
has
how
to
much
be
is
installed.
What is the cost of the door?
According to, I have two. One is from a local place, $250 plus a $50 delivery charge. The other is from Home Depot, comes to $272.96.
And what about the replastering of the...
That was $70. It's indicated on.
Okay.
How could I have called damage to his wall?
Mr. Clark, let me tell you something. When you lose your temper, which you clearly did on that evening, you lost your temper, whatever the consequences are, it's going to be very difficult for you to establish to me, since he has testified that this was not there before. Is that right?
That's correct.
The fact that you say that it was an old door and that it was rusted on top, that is of absolutely no consequence. If
But
it
my
is-
wife saw that the door was busted when she went up there. I mean, way before this incident happened, Your Honor. She saw the door. She saw his apartment complex. She saw it was being worked on by interior decorators. I mean,
Did you
he's trying-
check the welding on the door when you went up there?
No, I didn't, Your Honor.
She didn't check the welding on the door. This is an old door.
She's
not
an
saying it's a
expert.
new door.
She can see that the door is broken, loose up top. I mean, she doesn't have to see all the
I want to
rivets.
tell you something. If your wife was to stand there and tell me that she noticed when she went up there on a social visit that the welding that held the door in place was broken, I wouldn't believe her, and I wouldn't even ask her
But
that
it was
question.
already broken, so when I went to bang on the door, of course it's going to bang. It's going to get even more loose. Your Honor.
Oh, then you're responsible.
I'm not responsible.
No, you are responsible. If
His
it's-
door was
Listen,
already damaged.
Mr.
How
Clark,
could I
you're
have
not
made
paying-
damage to something that's already damaged?
You're not paying attention, sir. Did you hear what you just said? You just said if the door was already damaged, and because I banged on it, it was damaged further. I'm not
No, 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 no,
responsible.
no.
And
I said-
that's exactly what you said to
I
me.
said I touched his door.
Touched his door?
Okay.
You
I
didn't
banged
touch
on
his door.
His door was already damaged. I mean, how can I not knock on it and for it to not get loose? That's just not physically possible.
Mr.
His door
Clark.
was already broken, so I'm banging on it. It's already broken, so I'm not gonna. I mean, how could I have broken it?
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $340. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I've been there 19 years. It's a nice small complex. We're sort of very tightly knit. I would like the Clarks to fit in if we can only work out the parking situation.
I can put it behind me, but yeah, I mean, I'm not going to talk to the guy as far as I'm concerned. He's just a neighbor.
And now the next case.
All parties on Black versus Hamilton. Step forward, please.
35-year-old limousine company owner Dolores Black is suing former driver David Hamilton for a loan. David is countersuing for the cost of Armani suits he used for uniforms.
Ms. Black, you own a limousine company?
That's correct.
And according to your complaint, the defendant was an employee of yours for some time. How long?
Off and on for a few years.
As a driver?
That's correct.
You loaned him some money, $2,000. He
I
had some
did.
financial difficulties. He paid you back $500, according to you, after you made some repeated attempts to try to collect the debt, and he still owes you $1,500.
That's correct.
Now, Mr. Hamilton, I read your answer. So your answer says that, well, you had some financial difficulties, and you acknowledge, sir, that you borrowed this money from the plaintiff. So far, is that right?
So far, so good.
You also say that you ought to pay the money back, right?
Verbally.
As opposed to what?
Written contract.
You go to law school in between your driving a limousine?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You say that as part of your job, you were required to look nice.
Expected.
Bought yourself an Armani suit, Brooks Brothers suit, a Canali suit. Then we got white shirts.
Perry Ellis.
Closed captioning, sponsored in part by Real Cases, Real People, Judge Judy. Limousine company owner Dolores Black is suing former driver David Hamilton for a loan. David wants Dolores to pay for his designer uniforms.
Now, was there any time set for the repayment of this loan, Ms. Black?
Yes, there was.
What was the time?
By the end of the month.
By the end of the month?
July of '98, that's correct.
Does that sound right to you?
No.
So you disagree on that, but it's not particularly relevant. Now, what I loved about your response was your counterclaim. You say that as part of your job, you were required to look nice.
Expected.
And that there was an agreement that the plaintiff would reimburse you 50% for your employee uniforms.
That's true.
Is that correct?
To a certain amount, that is correct.
Did he ever furnish you with bills for his uniforms?
No, he did not. And in fact, the employment contract states up to $150, which he signed, and Lonnie, an employee of the company, is the witness to that.
So here we go, and this is the best part. This is what your countersuit is. By the way, you do drive a limousine, which means you're supposed to be in a dark suit, right?
Correct.
Right. Nice black suit, and a white shirt, and a tie. Any color that you like, as long as it's conservative and it doesn't have a picture of Pluto on the front, right?
It depends who you're driving that week.
Bought yourself an Armani suit
Yes, ma'am.
for $1,200? Got good taste. Brooks Brothers suit, $700. This guy's got quite a sense of humor. A Canali suit for $700. How much money did you earn?
Average was probably $8 an hour. Gratuities could exceed $10 an hour on top of that.
So the grand total of $18 an hour, that doesn't require an Armani suit for $1,200. Then we got white shirts. 10 shirts you bought at $40 a shirt.
Perry Ellis.
Love it. Now, this one would really send my husband into a tailspin. You know, he likes those ties 3 for $10 that you buy, you know. 6 ties at $45 a piece, $270. And here we go. This is almost my favorite. 2 pairs of shoes at $210 a pair. You don't even walk around as a limousine driver.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Want justice? Call 1-888-800-JUDY. On the internet, judgejudy.com.
Your lawsuit's the most ridiculous thing I ever saw. I mean, I think you're probably almost embarrassed when you had to sign it. Now, why didn't you pay her back $1,500?
Financial difficulties.
How'd you pay for your Armani suit?
You gotta look nice.
How did you pay for your Armani suit?
Paid for it in full.
How?
Cash or check.
I can't deal with him. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,500.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy, 21-year-old receptionist Ariel Loker caused her to be evicted. Ariel says Shane threatened to kill her.
All rise. Your Honor, this is case number 695 on the calendar in the matter of Hill versus Loker. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have seats.
How old are you?
23.
And you?
21.
According to this complaint, you two decided to live together. You signed a 6-month lease on an apartment. You moved in September. You each paid half the rent of September. Is that right?
That's correct.
And then came October, and you didn't have any money for the rent.
Yes, Your Honor.
Were you working?
Yes, ma'am.
So why didn't you have any money for the rent?
I had the money for rent. My little sister's car got broken into. We had it in there. We were at a friend's apartment, and it was broken into, and it was stolen. We know who did it, but...
What does this have to do with your rent money?
That was the rent money that was in there.
I mean, the dog ate the rent money.
No, the dog didn't eat the rent money. It was stolen out of the car.
What'd you leave the money in the car for?
We had it in the glove compartment.
What'd you have it in the glove compartment for? I mean, you say that as if it's normal. People don't leave cash in a glove compartment.
I know. We shouldn't have done it, but we did.
In any event, she didn't have the rent money for October. You paid your half?
Yes, I did.
And then in mid-October, what happened?
We got an eviction notice on the door. And when I had first talked to her about the rent, and she had told me about that, because I asked her for the rent money, I was just going to go write a check. And that's when she told me that she didn't have the rent money. I went and I paid my half of the rent, hoping that she would pay hers, and she never said anything else about it. October 15th, we got an eviction notice. So I waited for her to come home. She came home with another young woman, which I believe is her witness. And I was upset. So, you know, I'm asking her, why isn't the rent paid? She tells me, oh, I had money stolen, and my parents had money stolen, something else, I don't know. And I said, okay, but the rent needs to be paid, you know? And so she starts telling me her sob story about everything that's going on and saying that she has no way to pay it and that I'm not being understanding. My point was, maybe I'm not being understanding, but this is my rental history. This is my credit. And even if she has other problems, she shouldn't affect that.
Absolutely right.
Right. So what she said is she took her witness with her and said, well, I'm going to go call somebody and see if I can get the money. She came back later that evening. My boyfriend, who's my witness, was there. She came back later that evening and said that she had got the money, someone was going to send it to her, and that she'd pay the rent tomorrow. I didn't think anything of it. I believed her. She went upstairs, took a few boxes, and that was the last I saw her.
Why did you move out?
Because she threatened, Amanda and I were in there. First of all, Billy was never there after any of this happened.
Just tell me why you moved out.
Okay, that's fine. We went upstairs. She's on the phone screaming. We hear smashing downstairs. There was glass all over our kitchen. She said to her friend that was on the phone that she was going to get a gun and she was going to kill me. And that's exactly what she said. Amanda was there, heard it. It's not a lie. She did that. And the way she was acting, we were both scared. So I went home, talked to my parents, talked to a couple people, and I decided to get out. I'm not going to stay somewhere where I'm going to be fearing for my life.
You could understand why she was angry.
Oh, of course I could, but for her to say that she's going to kill me, that's not right.
No.
It's not worth killing someone over.
No, I know my sense is that sometimes you say, I'm going to kill her, and then you don't mean it. And of course, there are occasional times when that does happen. But it's not usual. Well, you know, you have to be responsible for some of the damages that she claims.
I completely understand that.
All right, good. Now, you ended up paying.
Yes, I did.
In October, her half of the rent.
Yes,
and
I did.
How much was her half of the rent?
Well, that month we had a discount where we got $100 off our rent. So her half of the rent for that month was $325.
Okay. And then you had to stay there in November because you had to give him 30 days notice.
In order to protect my rental history.
Right. And so what was her half of the rent for November?
$375. But I also had to pay reletting and cleaning fees as well as a result of this. I had to pay those. She did not pay any part.
Okay. Now, how much were the reletting fees?
$637.50.
$637 was the total.
Right. And the cleaning fees were $115 charged by the apartment complex.
Just a second. The whole thing comes to about $1,075. The next part of it of your lawsuit is punitive damages.
Right.
A couple of $1,000.
A little under.
$1,700. How did you pick $1,700 for punitive damages?
Well, there's a simple fact that when she did this, I ended up missing a week and a half of work. And that was because I had things that I had to work out with this apartment complex. I had things that I had to find somewhere else to live in a very short amount of time. This was money, I had to borrow money to come up with, to pay the reletting fees, things of that nature. I also missed a week and a half of school. My grade point dropped. You know, I had all A's and B's.
Oh, you know, you could go on, and then and because your grade point dropped, you couldn't get into graduate school, and you couldn't get into graduate school, so you couldn't get a great job, couldn't get a great job, and therefore affected your whole life. And over your lifetime, it probably cost you $150,000.
But I would never have had these problems if she would have just stuck to the lease.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Now, because of this agreement that she broke, I'm paying extra rent per month.
It's an interesting theory, but one that doesn't fly.
And later today,
I asked her to marry me, and she accepted. And then she told me she didn't love me anymore, and that she wanted me to move out.
I don't know why you fell out of love with this guy, because he looks like a perfectly terrific guy to me.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Deshane Hill is suing former roommate Ariel Loger for causing her to be evicted. Ariel felt physically threatened and had to move.
In court, There are certain damages that are provable and certain things that we call aggravation. So this caused you aggravation. You don't get compensated for aggravation. What you do is you try to ensure that when you select somebody as a roommate, they have sufficient funds in order to pay their rent and pay their share, right? And the next time, I would strongly urge you and anybody else who's going to pick a roommate, somebody either that they know casually or even that they know very well, that says, listen, I'm going to go into this roommate situation with you. We're going to treat it like a business. We're each going to put so much in the pot at the beginning so that we are sure that we can make these payments at least for 3 months. And if you can't, then we know that we have a certain amount of security.
Right.
All right? But she's not going to compensate you for your aggravation, the drop of your grade point average.
Well, it's not, I mean, it's not just that. It's the simple fact that, you know, I had to come up with other forms of money to pay for her part. I had to come up with extra money to get me another apartment. And now because of this agreement that she broke, I'm paying extra rent per month versus, you know, I could have been paying $120 less per month.
So you also want her to pay the difference in the rent that you're paying now and that you were paying with her over the term of your lease?
I wouldn't have to pay it if she wouldn't have broke it.
Ms. Hill, it's an interesting theory, but one that doesn't fly. You're entitled to $1,075 from her. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,075.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Pick your roommates carefully.
Be very
Get
careful.
to know them.
Yes. That's one thing I can agree with her on. Pick your roommates carefully because you don't need to get in a situation like this. It's horrible.
And now the next case.
All parties on Ford versus Foster. Step forward, please.
46-year-old retail salesman Scott Ford is suing his ex-fiancée, 33-year-old reservations agent Deanna Foster, for wedding costs and remodeling her home before she kicked him out.
You met at the Home Depot, where you were working, sir.
Yes. Yes.
A romance blossomed and you moved in together. You
Yes.
moved into her home.
Yes.
How long did you live together?
From April 1st to October 31st.
And then it didn't work out and you left.
I was asked to leave.
And I gather from your papers, sir, that you feel as if you were used when you were there.
Somewhat, yes.
To complete construction that she was doing on her house.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to be compensated for that.
And other things as well.
Well, tell me about it.
Well, like you say, I met Deanna at the Home Depot where I worked, and we got along. I met her and her daughter both there. We went out on a date. I was invited to her home. I went on further dates with her and included Nicole along with that.
Nicole is her daughter?
Yes, ma'am. We figured that we both had something in common. We could work together, and so I asked her to marry me, and she accepted. And when I moved in, we were acting as man and wife. I added my income to hers. Right away, she went and got a wedding dress. We started seeking out a place to get married. And we started working on projects around the house. Met her because of a tile countertop she was doing and repaired that. Helped her to make a recession in a wall to put a refrigerator in there. Helped to buy and install a block wall, saltillo tile on the floors, new cabinets. Then when everything started coming to its climax, I just felt like we weren't getting along, you know. Then she told me in approximately September that she didn't love me anymore and that she wanted me to move out, which I did at the end of October. However, I did continue to go over there to make sure that all the projects were completed, like the tile.
Well, tell me, Mr. Ford, what do you think she owes you in terms of money, and why?
Because I put my account, my money, we put our money together. We were basically living as man and wife. And my income was going in with hers to help pay for these projects. It also went to paying on the wedding site that we were supposed to get married at, the Grove. That was $1,000 down. The wedding dress, I really don't know how much she paid on the wedding dress. She discussed with me a wedding cruise for a honeymoon. I'm not sure how much money, if any money, went into that. but she told me that all of this was non-refundable. And some things occurred that made me start thinking. And when I called in January to the Grove, I put a call into him. I found out she got money back on December 4th. We put $1,000 down. She got $900 back. Never told me.
Did you get $900 back?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you give him his half?
No, he said he didn't want it. We discussed it all. He said he didn't want it. He just wanted to get back together with me, and this whole thing is because he's heartbroken.
Well, that may be true, but you don't want to get back together with him.
I
Why
did
should
offer to pay him back. I told him I don't have it right now, but I did offer him. And he said, I don't want the money. I even offered him the dress. He said he didn't want it.
What am I going to do with a wedding dress?
Right.
Sell it.
Mr. Ford, there are certain things that you don't get compensated for, unfortunately.
Sure.
You don't get compensated for the work that you did in the house. You were living in the house, sharing expenses, whatever the expenses of the house were. If there's a mortgage on it, if there's gas, electric, phone, all the other things, you were living there, and the intention was that you were going to get married, so that you were pooling your money. You know, people would be wise if, before they got married, they sort of kept things separate.
Okay.
Sometimes people are smart, even after they're married, to keep things separate, since the divorce rate in this country is 50%. Where do you live in California?
No, Las Vegas, Nevada.
Okay. Is there community property in Las Vegas?
Yes.
Well, if there's community property, you know that after you're married, whatever investment you made in the house, half of that is yours. But before you're married,
zilch. Okay.
You get left with nothing and a little bit of a broken heart.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
You had the computer and you used it for 19 days.
Yes.
Well, you can't do that.
We used each other's property.
No, but this was a sale. Come on.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Scott Ford claims ex-fiancée Deanna Foster had him remodel her home, pay wedding costs, then kicked him out. Deanna says she changed her mind about marriage.
So far, you owe him $450. What about the wedding dress?
The wedding dress is non-refundable.
Did you buy it?
Yes, ma'am. I have a receipt for $600.
Good. And what did you just tell him to do with the wedding dress?
I told him he could have it and he can sell it and take whatever he can get out of it. And he said he didn't want it.
Good. So I'll tell you the same thing. Sell it.
Okay.
So say you can find somebody to buy it for you $400. You also owe him half for that, $200 for the wedding dress. What else?
That's it.
So far, I've got $650, sir.
Okay.
That you're absolutely entitled to. As far as the work on the house,
okay.
You don't get compensated for that.
All right.
All I can say to you is this, Miss Foster. I don't know why you fell out of love with this guy, because he looks like a perfectly terrific guy to me. Thank you. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $650.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Good luck, Scott.
Watch yourself, guys. There's plenty of them out there just like this one.
And now the next case.
Parties on Goldsby versus Brantley. Step forward, please.
Purchasing agent Connie Goldsby says her former friend, office manager Carolyn Brantley Knott, sold her a bad computer. Carolyn is countersuing Connie for using the computer without paying.
Miss Goldsby, this was a friend of yours.
Yes.
And she had a computer, second-hand computer. She was selling it.
Yes.
She was selling it for $1,000?
$600.
$600. And you gave her $200 down.
Yes.
And took the computer.
Yes.
What was your arrangement with her as far as paying back the rest?
I was going to pay her within a week or two, and there was some problems with the software, with the DOS in there. She was trying to locate, she tried to install her DOS fobbies.
Just listen to me.
Okay.
I know nothing about computers.
Neither did I.
Okay, I know nothing about it. So we're going to make believe that I'm a computer idiot, and we're just going to go on the law.
Okay.
You bought this computer for $600. You gave her $200 down. You were supposed to pay her the rest when?
Within a few weeks.
Within
we
a
didn't
few
have
weeks.
a specific date.
But within a few weeks?
Yes.
Okay. And there came a time when you told her you didn't want the computer anymore.
Yes.
How much after she brought it to your house?
Well, the final time that I had told her was about 19 days. We, for the 2.5 weeks up until that 19th day, we were trying to resolve what problems there were with the software.
Well, this is a second-hand computer. It's not under warranty. So after 19 days, you told you didn't want the computer anymore.
Right.
And did you bring it back to her?
No, actually, she was at my home. I had it prepared for her to take. I was going to help her load it. She turned around and walked out. Well, I told her that I didn't want to buy the computer and that she could reimburse me the $200, at her convenience due to their, financial situation. And she turned around and said to me that she hoped my kids didn't screw it up.
Well, you had the computer and you used it for 19 days.
Yes.
Well, you can't do that.
Well, it was back and forth. Carolyn and I were trying to resolve.
But you were using it during that 19-day period. You had kids, and your kids were using the computer. That's part of her defense, that your kids were using it during that period of time, during that 3-week period.
We were playing.
Well, so this is a very easy case. You have the computer back?
I do.
Ms. Goldsby, you buy a second-hand computer. A second-hand computer does not come with a guarantee. It does not come with a warranty. And if you knew immediately that there were certain problems with this computer, either you say, look, I don't want to buy it, it's trouble, but you don't keep it for 3 weeks, let your kids use it, and then say, I don't want it anymore because I really can't fix it, and then expect to get your money back.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Want justice? Call 1-888-800-JUDY. On the internet, judgejudy.com.
Ms. Goldsby, after 19 days, you're not entitled to your money back. What gets worse is you kept the computer in your house for an additional period of time. Right. Then, ultimately, she said, all right, I'll give you back your $200. Let me have the computer back. And when she got it back from you, you sent your daughter to pick it up?
My daughter went to pick it up.
How much after this 19 days? How much after the initial purchase?
There was a total of 45 days is what it was in her home.
And so a month and a half later.
The day they went to pick it up, her son was using it. My daughter had to wait for her son to get done using it to be able to take it.
Okay.
But she was talking with my daughter. They were friends.
Doesn't make any difference. You used her property. You used her property.
We used each other's property.
No, but this was a sale. Come on.
Okay.
Ms. Goldsby, it's ridiculous. You can't have your $200 back. You don't really want to countersue her, do you?
Yes, I do.
Well, I'm dismissing your countersuit for use of the computer. Sell it. Meanwhile,
I can't sell it.
You're wrong to expect your money back. I mean, if you want to give her the other $400, she'll give you the computer back. You want that?
No.
And
just a second. Okay. Hold on a second. You don't want that. No. So you're out $200. Your kids used the computer for 45 days. It cost you $200. That's all. This case is over.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy, she got pregnant from another man just 4 months after the wedding. Now the groom won't help with the bills.
I don't blame him.
I don't understand how you don't blame him.
Judge Judy Justice.
I felt she sold out our friendship for $200 after 20 years.
I'd rather not deal with a person that doesn't have the same feelings of friendship that I do.
If it was only worth $200, it wasn't a friendship.
We have no friendship.
Julianne Hernandez claims 40-year-old contractor Dominic Acheta assaulted her and got her fired. Dominic says she was rude.
All rise. Yeah, this is case number 574 on the calendar in the matter of Hernandez versus Acheta. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated, sir. Ma'am, have a seat.
Ms. Hernandez, you were working at a video store. Your lawsuit claims that the defendant caused you to be fired from your job, and he also assaulted you by spitting at you.
Yes.
You wanted to rent a particular video.
What happened was I had asked my wife to call the store because every Tuesday the new movies have come out. My wife called the store and...
All right, so let your wife come up here.
I had called the store on Tuesday. I had gone off work, and I said, what movies have come out? And she said, well, I don't know. I said, well, you work there. I'm sure you should know what movies come out. And then all of a sudden, she just threw the phone down, this individual threw the phone down, and didn't get back on the phone for 5 to 7 minutes. When the person got back on the phone, it was not the same person. It was a Filipino girl that had been working there, Asian, and she got back on the phone. She has a strong accent. She said, "Oh, can I help you? You've been waiting." I go, "Well, do you have the movies that came in?" The girl went and checked, and and then she comes back. She goes, "Yes, we have the movies." And then she hung up on me. What I wanted, and then I called back and I said, "Well, whoever hung up on me real fast, I said I wanted to make sure if you guys can hold the movies for me."
Okay.
And this was the first person that had answered the phone.
So when you called back, the first person who had originally thrown down the phone was the person that you got.
Correct.
And you asked to reserve those movies.
Yes, and the policy is to hold them for 1 hour during the weekday until you get there. And she said, "Oh," I go, "Well, those movies that you do have, can you hold them for me?" She goes, "Well, how long are you going to be?" And I said, "I'll be there within the hour." She goes, "Well, if you're not here in 30 minutes, I'm going to have to give them to another customer." Click, and hangs up the phone. I was like, "What do what's going on here?" And then my husband, I go, "Well, I got to hurry up. I got to get going. I got to go rush." I go, "I can't believe they hung up. I've been going there for 7 years. I know everybody there." So he's like, "Who hung up on you?" And I'm like,
He was angry.
Yes.
So then you called.
Yeah, so how I got
Okay.
involved with this is I called up and I asked who was rude to my wife, and they started a giggling game, and they hung up. So I got mad. I called back. I said, "Excuse me." I said, "I'd like to hear everybody's voice in there." So I heard one person's voice, which is assistant manager Jenny. I know her. She didn't say it. The Filipino one, she's got a strong accent. She's known me for a long time. She didn't say it. She got on and she kind of like admitted that it was her.
What did she say?
She said, "Yeah, it was me, and so what? And I don't care who you call." So I said, "Okay, that's
No,
fine."
I didn't say that.
Just a second.
And then hung up. So what I did is I called back a third time. I asked the store manager at that time, Jenny, I said, "Excuse me," I said, "May I have the boss's number?" They go, "No, we don't have it." Hung up. I said, "Fine." So what I did, I called another store, video store, and I asked them for the number. They gave me the regional number. So I called them up. I explained to them what had happened. What she did then they got the manager of the store to call my house and say, "Hey, you know what? We're so sorry. I pulled you up on the computer. You're a hell of a customer." They go, "I'll tell you what. Why don't you go back to the store? We'll give you the 2 movies you want to rent on the house, and the third one we're going to give you for free. You can take it home. It's yours." So anyway, I went back in there with me, my spouse, and my baby. We walk in there. I grabbed the 2 movies I'm talking. I said, "Who was the one that was being rude?" And they go, "It was her." I said, "Okay." And I was telling the girl, I go, "Well, I guess her boss will be talking to her." As I'm walking out, it could have just been left alone. She curses me out.
What did she say?
She said, "F you and F whoever you talk to." I get mad. I get in her face.
Oh,
I said,
you're
"You know
lying.
what?" Shh. I get in her face. I go, "You know what? Don't F and ever talk to somebody like that. And second of all, you should never even talk to a
He's
customer
not
like
lying.
that." And then what happened, she curses me out again and tries to take a swing, and that's when the other 2 girls hold her down. So what I did, I just went home. I called up her boss again, explained the story, what happened. They fired her. I didn't tell them to fire her. She got fired. You know what I mean?
I have a witness that was there from the time he walked in to the time he left, right here, and he was my next customer in line, so he knows what happened.
Okay. Your name, sir?
Tariq Grant.
Hi, Mr. Grant.
I was standing there, right there, the next customer. I could tell when he came in because he came in and he slammed the videotapes on the counter. And he wasn't with his wife or his baby; he was alone. And then he came in, he was pointing at Julianne, and he was using profane language and saying, "I hope your boss deals with you." And then at that time, the whole store had went quiet. And then Julianne replied, was like, "I don't care what you say." And then at that time, he was like kind of behind me, and he came around, went behind the counter, and got up in her face, and that's where he kept using vulgar language, and then he spit in her face there.
Did you see him spit in her face?
Yes, I was like probably from here to halfway to you.
Did you hear the plaintiff use any bad language to him?
No, I didn't.
Nothing?
No.
Okay. Tell me about this spitting, Mr. Aceda.
Yeah.
You sort of acknowledged that you spit at her.
No, what it is I got face-to-face with her, and when I used that word, a little spray. You know, when you get face-to-face with somebody, I mean, contact, nose, almost no, bumper to bumper, little spray got on her.
No.
That's
How do
what
you
it
know?
was.
I don't think so.
Well, I'm not so sure about that. You were pretty angry.
No, I
He was
wasn't.
angry after she acted up and started swearing.
I mean, she
at him.
cursed me out in front of the whole
Look,
store, you know
look,
what I mean?
this is what happened. He came in the store and he was angry at me because I hung up on him.
No.
He was angry.
Listen, I don't want you to say a word now. She was quiet. Now you have to be quiet. Understood?
Mm-hmm.
Go.
Okay, he was angry at me because I hung up on him on the phone because he had threatened me that he was going to slap me. And so I don't have to take that, so I hung up on him. Okay? He came in the store and he asked me what my name was, and I told him my name. And he said, "So you're the one who hung up on me?" I said, "I guess so." And so then he went and he started talking to my assistant manager, Janine, and then he
he like started bad-mouthing me to all the customers, and I was just ignoring him, you know, trying to put it aside. And then he was about to leave, and he was saying bye to everybody, and then he was like, well, I hope the district manager deals with you. And I said, I don't care what you say to me, you can leave now. And then he came around into my work area and he said, what did you say to me? I said, you heard what I said, and he spit in my face.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
He's not entitled to spit at you. And quite frankly, Mr. Reseda, I believe that that's what happened.
And later today,
Well, he's certainly no Prince Charming then, according to you, madam. So what'd you invite him into your house for?
Because he was sweeping me off my feet.
Well, just a second. Explain to me how somebody sweeps you off your feet when you pay every time you go out.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Former video store clerk Julianne Hernandez is suing store customer Dominic Acheta for spitting in her face and getting her fired.
Now, did your district manager actually speak to you?
No, he did not even ask me what happened.
Okay.
He just fired me 2 days later.
Okay.
Because he was calling him and hounding him and telling him what a bad person I was.
Well, how do you know he was hounding him?
Because my manager told me. I was very good friends with my manager. He didn't want to fire me. He told me everything.
Okay. When you spoke to the defendant on the phone, were you polite?
No, I was not polite to him because
were you
he...
No, not because.
I only talked to him once.
Did you speak to his wife?
No, I did not.
You never spoke to his wife?
I did not speak to his wife that night.
Who was the person that you spoke to the first time that you called?
It's her. The other one has a strong accent, and the other one, Janine, I've been calling there. I know her. She was the manager. She was very nice. I mean, we didn't even know who Juliana was.
There was another girl there. Her name was Lisa, and she was there.
Wasn't her, though.
She told us it was you. Janine told us it was you.
Okay, don't talk to her.
Look,
let me tell you something. Ms. Hernandez, your lawsuit really is in two parts. And the first part of your lawsuit is that he caused you to be fired.
Right.
He didn't cause you to be fired. You were fired because your employer found that you were rude to a customer. And your employer is allowed to fire you. And he is allowed to make a complaint. He was a customer of long standing. He had never had problems in the store before. And he's allowed to make a complaint if he believes that an employee has acted inappropriately. And I can't say to this man, don't make a complaint. He made a complaint. And he's absolutely entitled to do that. He's not entitled to spit at you.
That's what he did, though.
That's what he's not entitled to do. And quite frankly, Mr. Reseda, I believe that that's what happened. Whether you did it intentionally or whether it was just a little accident, I believe that you did, in fact, do that. Now, Ms. Hernandez has filed this lawsuit for $5,000, really, for causing her to be fired, and she's also filed this lawsuit because she says that you also assaulted her by spitting in her face. Well, spitting in her face is really a pretty disgusting thing to do. So she's going to get some money for that because I think that you acted wholly inappropriately. You had taken this matter to its course. You had spoken with the district manager. You spoke to the manager. You should have picked up your videos and left. That's it. Yeah. You know, you were hot, right?
No.
You weren't hot?
No, I was walking out the store when she cursed me out.
Listen, she's young and she's got a big mouth.
Yeah.
But you made the mistake because you're a mature person. She's a hot kid, but you're a mature person. And you really were not smart to get in her face, close enough to get in her face, to either accidentally or on purpose spit in her face. It's going to cost you $500. Judgment is for the plaintiff in the amount of $500. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
This should have never happened.
It should have never happened. I should have just got my movie switch I was doing and walked out the door. If she wouldn't have said anything, there would have been no confrontation at all.
I love that job, and I was very good at it, and I lost it, and I lost all my income.
And now the next case.
Parties on Kinsman versus Brewer. Step forward, please.
32-year-old dispatcher John Kinsman says he moved out of his former lover, Michelle Brewer's home, but she won't give him his TV, VCR, and clothes back. Michelle says John owes her money.
Mr. Kinsman, I read your complaint, sir, and from what I understand, you had recently divorced, and shortly after the divorce, you met the defendant.
Correct.
And after a relatively brief courtship, you moved in with her.
Mm-hmm.
How brief a courtship?
About a month. Yeah.
And that living arrangement lasted about 3 weeks.
Correct.
You moved out. She kept some of the things in the house that belonged to you that you had moved in with. You want them back.
Yep.
She says that you owe her a whole bunch of money, and when you pay her that money, you can get your things back. Is that it?
Yeah, that's cut and dry.
Just tell me what happened in those 3 weeks that caused you to move out.
Well, I moved in and she had a dirty house. I did all the, the cooking and the cleaning, and I've got kids, and she bonded with the kids real well.
With your children?
With my children,
in
correct.
3
yeah.
weeks?
Yeah. And then things kind of changed. I'd given her $250, half of her rent, and then kind of find out how much, she's pretty high maintenance. She purchased this car right before I'd met her that was, pretty expensive. And she went down to my parents' house and got all dramatical about how she couldn't make her car payment. So my dad, out of the kindness of his heart, wrote her a check for another $200 for her that she cashed for her car payment.
So to make a long story short, you realized that you hadn't worked out enough of the details before you moved in.
Exactly.
And that it wasn't a good idea. So you left.
Yeah.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You knew him for approximately 9 weeks. 4 weeks before he moved in, 3.5 or so glorious weeks while you were living together. Mm-hmm. Not exactly a commitment of a lifetime.
Closed captioning, sponsored in part by Real Cases, Real People, Judge Judy. John Kinsman wants his belongings back from former lover, Michelle Brewer.
What items did you leave when you left, sir?
I left a 19-inch TV. I left a 4-head VCR, a computer. I left some clothes, and then my W-2 forms, which she refused to give me, that I needed to, file my income tax.
Okay. And you still have those things, according to your answer. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am.
All right. Now, you tell me how much money you think he owes you.
Well, all I'm asking for is the $300 that he still owes me.
Well, tell me what the money is for.
Well, because everywhere we went, everything we did, I paid for everything, and he said that he was waiting for a check to come in, and that he would reimburse me, and he never.
Like what?
He never got a check, and he never reimbursed me for anything.
Ms. Brewer, tell me exactly what it is that he owes you the money for.
For groceries, for the electric bill, the rent.
Just a second. What was your financial arrangement when he moved in?
That he would pay for half of everything.
Is that what you agreed to?
Yeah, and I did. I gave her $250.
He gave me $200 after I finally pleaded with him and told him that I had.
He gave you $200 or $250?
He gave me $200.
I gave you $250 cash.
Well, he's lying.
Okay. He lived there 3 weeks. Correct?
He lived there at least 4 weeks.
Did you live there for a month, sir?
No, 3 weeks.
When did you move in?
I moved in, let's see, about the second week of March, and I was out of there by the end of March.
You were out by April 1st?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt and saying that he gave you $200 and that he lived there for 3 weeks.
Yes, ma'am.
You have receipts for groceries and all of the other items?
Every time we went out.
Let me see.
And that's not even all the receipts.
Well, this is all I'm going to consider.
I understand that.
You have no children, is that right?
Right.
You didn't move out by April 1st, sir. Unless this lady likes to watch Three Ninjas Kickback and Free Willy 3. She's got videotape rentals here for April 3rd of 98.
I was out, but we stayed, my kids and I stayed the night. We had a fight before that. We stayed one night.
And the night that you stayed, on 4/3, she also went food shopping.
Not with me.
For you and your kids.
Sure, just a second.
And me.
Now, other than the $200 that you gave her, sir, did you give her any other money? You went out for dinner, you went out for a bite to eat?
Oh, yeah, I wined her and dined her.
Well, tell me about it.
First couple of weeks.
Tell me about it.
If I would have known I needed to say the receipts, I would have. But we went to the Admiral Pub that's in our area a couple times.
And who paid?
I paid.
Did he pay?
No, he did not.
Yes, I sure did.
Just a second. Did he ever pay?
The only time he ever paid was the first night that we went out. We went to a restaurant. We got dinner. My dinner was burnt, so he didn't even have to pay for my dinner, and he paid for a drink that I drank. That's all he paid for. He gave me a little plastic rose one time from the dollar store.
Well, he's certainly no Prince Charming then, according to you, madam. He certainly didn't wine you and dine you, so what'd you invite him into your house for?
Because he was sweeping me off my feet.
Just a second. Explain to me how somebody sweeps you off your feet when you pay every time you go out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Want justice? Call 1-888-800-JUDY. On the internet, judgejudy.com.
Miss Brewer, you knew him for approximately 9 weeks.
Yes, ma'am.
4 weeks before he moved in, 3.5 or so glorious weeks while you were living together.
Mm-hmm.
Not exactly a commitment of a lifetime, right?
Right.
So, it seems to me that you should feel like a very lucky person that in a relatively short period of time, 3.5 weeks, before you had invested thousands upon thousands of dollars in someone who was, according to you, untruthful, dishonest, right?
Yes.
Untrustworthy.
Yes.
Before you invested a lifetime and thousands of dollars in him, you figured it out and put him out. I mean, what you should be doing is put a period and saying, oh, I want him out of my life.
That's what I did.
And well, it's not what you did because you kept this property. Where do you live?
Seattle.
Okay. Assuming that I believe you that you got $200 from him, did you get another $200 from his father?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so that makes, according to you, that makes $400 altogether. Correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Court will draft an order that within 5 days you are to have all of his property ready towards the front door. You will go there, escorted by a police officer, sir, to pick up your property. Do you understand?
Yes, I do.
Let us assume that you read this $510, $205 is attributed to you. You cannot prove to me, sir, that during that period of a month, correct, that you spent a farthing of your own money, right?
Yeah, correct.
Food, entertainment, video games for your kids,
right,
or anything else.
Right.
So let us assume that all comes to approximately $75 a week times 4 is another $300, right? That's $505, of which, madam, you have received $400. So on your counterclaim, I am awarding you $105. Do you understand? Good. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.